And we're back with me, Johnny McMurray, on the On The Spot Football Podcast for yet another fantastic guest. Tonight's guest is a man who I've known for a seriously long time in football. He's fresh off winning the Gibson Cup and Manager of the Year. Jesus, maybe I'll get one of them. But it's a pleasure to introduce Gary Haveron. Gary, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, Johnny. Thanks for having me on.
I'm so jealous of your tan here. That's the first thing I seen when I came in. I was like, fuck, you're bronze.
We got a wee window at the end of we obviously don't get very long off, end of May and that, like, so we did. So we ended up getting a week away of the family. It was much needed, probably, after a
100%.
long season. Yeah,
Well,
so,
here, a long, successful season.
Yeah, listen, it was brilliant, Johnny. Brilliant, like, I mean, you know what it means to the club. You play for the club. You know what it means to the people of Larne and stuff to have the success. And yeah, it was a grind in the end. And that we obviously had a great start to the season, good middle spell, had the wee wobble in February, and people thought we were going to fall behind. But listen, the boys were brilliant. Showed an unbelievable mentality to go again and get over the line.
What's it like for you now to finally be in the position of manager? Because we've seen about it, we've seen the statistics. You've been in, you've filled the gap, you've came out, you've coached, you've been back in, filled the gap again. I feel like you're so deserving of the role to be in there, and all credit to you, mate. You've been so successful.
Well, it's funny how it all came about, Johnny, like, because I had sat down and had a conversation with Kenny the year before about was it something I seriously considered doing about management. I've talked about this previously. I obviously had a really successful spell at Carrick with a great squad of boys we had. Went to the Glens under really difficult conditions. No, the Glens weren't the club in that they're in the position that they find themselves now currently. There was financial problems within the club at the time whenever I was there, and it was massively straining. So it was, and stressful and that there during that period of time. So when I got an opportunity to come in at Larne, albeit youth level and helping out with the academy at the start, I just jumped at the opportunity. You know, it was exciting. Obviously, Larne was building towards something. Kenny and Tiernan and Seamus was there, you know, and I very quickly gravitated towards the first team, as you do, you know, and I got more sucked in and more pulled into doing every job going.
Just come
you
down
know,
today, and then come back tomorrow, and then you're there.
Yeah. I was pretty much there morning, noon, and night, you know. But I was very lucky as well because my son was able to grow up within the football club as a result of that, you know. And he was so passionate about it and around the football club, you know, that both of us there I was able to have that relationship with him. Lisa missed out a bit more than that, like, I mean. But me and Alfie got to spend a lot of time around football, and I got to coach him and could be around him, which was brilliant. And he grew up in the football club, really. So yeah, to do every role within the club, it was kind of, it just makes you care about it a little bit more. You're a bit more ingrained in the whole DNA of the whole football club. And then to go into the management, and that, albeit through a couple of different, obviously, internships and everything else. Yeah, I had to make sure it was right for me, Johnny, and it was the right thing for my family. And, you know, it's a risk, football management.
It is.
When I got the Glentoran job, Roy Coyle said to me, he said a couple of things: sign good players and keep them motivated. And the other thing he says, the clock's ticking, son. The clock's ticking. You know what I mean? He said the clock's ticking.
As soon as it's in, it's on the way down, isn't it?
Well, that's it. You know, once you take a job on, the clock's ticking till you lose it. You know what I mean? And it was always in the back of my head, that a little bit. You know what I mean? But yeah, listen, I don't think I could have taken the job on if we didn't have such an unbelievable squad of players. The squad, I had so much faith in the players and so much belief in what they were capable of doing. The staff then, Johnny, like, I mean, incredibly blessed to have, you know, Mick's brilliant at what he does.
Unbelievable.
Jeff had transitioned from having an unbelievable, Jeff Hughes had transitioned from an unbelievable playing career, and he'd moved into the coaching side of things. So Jeff's somebody, you know, a wealth of experience of being there. Alan Mannis had joined the club and that, like, I mean, and he's the most professional man you ever met and a fantastic football coach. Keith O'Hara was somebody that was in the club in the scholarship role, and we elevated him into the first team because of the quality of the guy that he is and the calibre of person that he is. And then Mark Campbell, again, was in an internship and moved in. So I had so much faith in the staff and belief in them. And when I sort of done it in an internship and we had an element of success, I felt I owed it to them more than even more so to myself. I felt I owed it to them to take the chance in that there and take the role on to secure them and secure the players.
Not everybody gets the opportunity to kind of work with players for a long period of time, should I say. And you've probably been able to pick the biggest weaknesses but the biggest strengths from everybody and sort of accumulate your team the way that you wanted it over probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Before even stepping into the role, that must have been so confident for you to be able to be like, I know what I've got here and I'm going into a team that's ready to win.
Well, that's why I took the job on, and ultimately, like, I mean, was that great faith. And how do you write off players like a Leroy Miller, a Cricket Gallagher, or a Ro Ferguson? You know, you could go for Tomas Cosgroves, Mark Randalls. How do you write them people off? And I knew there was so much exciting talent coming through, and a Matty Lusty, a Dylan Sloan, a Benji McGee, Conor McKendry. There's so much talent within that group, you know, and they're all at a really good age.
Yeah.
Bar Mark in that there, who's a little bit of our elder statesman, like, but I tell you what, he's an
unbelievable,
exceptional footballer. You know, Johnny, because you've seen it. Whenever you go in and train with Mark Randall, you ask people in that there, like, who's the best player you play with? Everybody will say Mark Randall.
We actually make him look bad, I think. I remember playing with him and he was doing stuff, and you'd be like, why are you playing that ball? And then as a footballer, you're like, do you know what? If I was smart enough, I probably would have got there.
Yeah.
But he just sees things completely different.
And he doesn't doubt himself. I think the big thing with Mark is that there he just executes. Like, to me, touching, he'll play it because he backs himself to do that. I think sometimes we take that extra touch when we have that little bit of doubt if it's the right thing to do, or they don't trust their technique to play first time, whereas Mark does it. And he doesn't think about it, and he doesn't worry about the consequences of it not executing. He just goes about it. To keep a Mark on the pitch and that they're calm. I think that's because he can lose the temper very quickly, like, you mean, but he's been unbelievable for me. But I think what that allowed me to do, Johnny, in my coaching role, and I always felt that my role within the club, because we had Tiernan and Seamus there for such a long period of time, my role was then supporting the players very much and getting around them and helping them in any way I possibly could, be that integrating into the town and helping them off the pitch as well as on it, doing the IDPs and working with individual players to make them that little bit better about what they do. So because I was able to build them relationships and that element of trust, and I don't think I've ever really changed, Johnny, even with management, I've not changed doing what I do. I still wheel the bag in and that, like, you mean, in match days, I still help carry the gear.
Near enough.
Yeah, I still believe in that there, that I have to stay true to who I am. And if I start changing who I am and start getting away from that there, then I'm not being true to the person I am. And I don't ask the boys to call me Gaffer and they got there to call me Gaz and that, like, you mean, because you can't call me Gaz for 6 years and then all of a sudden start calling me Gaffer. I just don't think it sits overly comfortable with either of us.
Big time,
so it does. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's got Gaffer on the door and that, like, you mean, and I keep on, I look at, can I get that changed to Gaz? I'm going to felt tip it out some of these days. But no, I think in them relationships that you're allowed to build with players now, they're in a coaching role that's different than management one. You're not leaving people out of the team. But I think if I can remain consistent with them and continue to treat them the way I've always have, with the respect I feel like the players deserve, and that, I mean, I'll continue to get it back, and they've shown that this year with what they produced on the pitch.
Well, we'll hold it there, because the managerial side of your career is fantastic. But we'll obviously dive into things that you touched on, Carrick, Glentoran, and obviously being successful at Lauren this year. But one of the biggest things, guys, I've known about you for a long, long time is you love to talk about other people. You don't like to talk about yourself. But now you're stuck. You're stuck. You're in that seat, and we have you probably for an hour and a half, 2 hours. But you've had a fantastic playing career. Yeah. And I get to do a wee bit of research, and probably a lot of things that I never ever considered or knew about you. I just thought, I've seen Gaz playing in the Irish League, but you've obviously been away at Wolves. You started at Crusaders.
Yeah.
So these are all wee things that come up with a wee bit of research, but we've got to dive into it. Crusaders, you start off as a young kid. You're ready to go. You obviously get a massive move to Wolves. Talk to me.
It's funny, Johnny Light, because I meet my primary school teacher, because most kids start at primary school and that, like, I met my primary school teacher, and he had great pleasure in telling me that I was the 11th pick in the team.
Okay.
And he said that to me because I was late to football, and I, like so many people, I never really started playing football till I was about 8, 9, 10 years of age. It wasn't like grassroots football now, where my boy, since as soon as he's been able to walk, he's been playing football. Yeah. I started that down around P5, P6 and that there, because my best mate, Stephen Mills, that happens to work at Niffle, like he does, and he's always been my best mate. And he was going off to football, and I wanted to go to football too, because I wanted to go and spend more time with him. But what that allowed us to do was, I wanted to compete with him because he was better than me. So he was my competition really early doors and that there, and I strived to try and compete with him and get better than him and that, I mean, and that was our competition, and we were very competitive. So by default, not that he may be better and that, I mean, and we had that competitive edge really early doors. But if I wasn't left-footed, I doubt very much I'd have been on that school football team, because I was I was playing left wing, believe it or not. Like, you mean, don't know why, because I don't have that skill. Like,
gap.
I just provided balance. I played on the left-hand side. So I was kind of then progressed in that there. But like I said, is that fire that was ignited in me at 10, 11 years of age and competing with Millsy which took me on into secondary school. By the time I had finished secondary school, I was captain of the school football team. I played up year groups and that, like so we did, you know. I was on the Northern Ireland Schoolboys set up and everything else, and for a late developer and that, I suppose, now when he says I was the last pick in the team, well, I think myself, well, I was the only one went to England at that time.
Yeah.
But that team had DJ Fergie, you know, maybe no resident DJ Fergie, like
the lawn man. He's winning everything pretty much.
Yeah. Garth McCauley was in that school football team. We had a boy called David McCormick, and I did Didi McCormick, who's an exceptional footballer. We had a really, really good, successful primary school team. So did, but again, is at that stage at 15, 16, I was the only one who went across the water to England, and I was lucky enough in that a guy. David Morrison that there gave me an opportunity and scouted me and seen me. I was playing for the schoolboys and that they're on the trials as the build up to it, and he actually sent me his the form that he'd sent Wolves at that time on my scouting thing, and it was basically well made is what he had on, because it was a big enough well put together, well made, left-sided player, good communicator, shows real potential, get him over. So it was basically what was on the wee slip and that there that he sent over to Wolves, and I got an opportunity to go to Wolves, and I kind of got unbelievable good bits of advice, because I had to move at 13, 14, probably to fill my ambition. I kind of always felt I had to go push myself outside comfort zone. I went to the Cruise and that there at the time, that they were unbelievable successful under 16 side. I had Martin Rogers that I knew really well from Larne, was playing in the under 18, so we were able to travel up and down together, albeit we jumped in the train and we sneaked into the toilet so we didn't have to pay for a train fare. So we did just head in the toilets and that there, got off and ran down York Gate down into the Shore Road, and we then left our gear in there, ran on down to Lochside and that, like to me, for training, and then ran back again to get our stuff to run back and that there to go back down home again, and grounding like that gives you an unbelievable sense of, if you want something, you got to go out sometimes and grab it, and you got to go and get where the opportunity is. And at that stage, Lauren maybe didn't have that opportunity for young players like myself at that stage. They maybe didn't have the coaching or the opportunities, or maybe the platform and that there that, you know, that Crusaders could have presented at that side. I was at the Cruise and that there for a year, and the year I was there was the year Roy Walker was the manager and they'd won the league. It was in around 95-96 season, and you had Glenn Dunlop, and you had Aaron Callaghan and Kevin McKeown and Sid Burrows, Stephen Baxter played up front for that team, and that Kurt Hunter was running around in midfield, absolute monster of a man, and they had an exceptional squad of players, but they had an exceptional second team then as well. They had like Ian Young and Paul Dwyer and Chris Morgan and Brian Russell, and they were exceptional. Well, Mo Arthur, Gavin Arthur, like, I mean, incredible. So the whole club was flourishing that time. They won the league at 16s, one of the 18s, which I played for both. They won the league at the Resi League and that, then they won the Steel and Sons Cup, and they won the league at first team. So it was an exceptional time to be part of Crusaders at the time and that there. But the opportunity to go to Wolves was because a gentleman seen something in me and gave me an opportunity, and once someone over there got a really good bit of advice and that there, talk, which I haven't really stopped since I was 15, you know what I mean, for breath, but talk, communicate, be a leader, show that you belong there and that, like, get in there, make friends with people, shake hands with people, look them in the eye. Do you mean just simple little bits of instruction, but something I've always kind of stood by and tried to do, and they invited me back, and they kept on inviting me back, and I kept on going back, like, do you mean, and at one stage in that there, pretty much when I agreed to sign at schoolboy forms, I was going back to England every single weekend. Okay. So I had to play for the Cruise, because they played Sundays, schoolboys. I had to play for the Cruise in the morning with the 16s, afternoon that there were the 18s, would have gone straight over to Belfast airport, and I hadn't been on a plane until I went on trial, and then flew across now, like, to England that there, where I got picked up on a Saturday night, played on a Sunday for the schoolboys team under 16s and that there. I flew home on a Sunday night and back to school on the Monday morning, and I did that every weekend for about a year when I played for Wolves and that, like, to me, and it just sort of became part of it. And then signed schoolboy forms, or I got a YTS as it would have been then for Wolves, and I was just incredibly lucky, Johnny. I'm not overly talented, like, to mean, to per se, like, to mean, but incredibly strong mentally. I think a wee bit of resilience I had a strong mentality, work ethic, good teammate, like, to mean, is what I felt I brought to it, and a good communicator, like, to mean, which opened pathways for me.
A lot of things that you would get in that is you wouldn't really see young kids shouting, demanding, pointing. It's all very lax, isn't it, nowadays? And they're just like, to go do it, and the coaches are
bellow and everything, and
Yeah.
it's strange now because you want that. You want to see kids with a personality, and I feel like it's kind of gone.
PlayStations and computers and things like that there, and phones especially, Johnny. It's taken away that element of communication and how you converse with people. Like, you know, my son's an excellent communicator, I have to say. It's probably his super strength of what they talk about over in England and that when you're getting scouted. You know, he's just signed for Crystal Palace, and that's the big thing that they seen in him was that strong leadership thing, because it's unique.
Yeah.
Because he stands out for that reason. Take the football aside, not like, to me, straight away, you know, who's the talker? Who's organising? There's one voice. I was over not long ago watching Palace play against Chelsea under-18s, and you're right, Johnny, it's the coaches.
Yeah.
The coaches are the ones that shouting on, 3 or 4 coaches on both sides. They're giving all the information, but there's not a lot coming from the kids. So when they go into the next step in the next environment, now you need to find a voice, and some kids don't make that step across because they don't have it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you need to be exceptionally talented if you're going to be very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas someone like my Alfie and that there, who is a good talker and a good organiser, has really strong leadership skills and that there, and that kind of makes him stand out. And he went to a number of trials, and they all say the same thing. Great talker. Yeah. You know what I mean? Takes after his mum, believe it or not.
Don't leave out the physicality.
I
mean, the wee man's, 16, 17, he's 6'3".
Yeah, he's a big boy.
He's well put together.
Yeah, he's well put together. He's well made. He's well made. He's a good footballer, Johnny. Like, I mean, there's no two ways about it. He's technically very good as well. But he's grew up with a ball at his feet. I kind of wonder now why he should be. He should be, because of the environment he's grew up into. He's got loads of opportunities to play up at 18s and 20s. Always played with kids older than him, and that, and took them out of that comfort zone from a very early age. And he's always seemed to manage to cope.
That's one of the biggest things that I speak of now, and I feel like it's changed. And this isn't the harp on, and I don't want to be repetitive in the podcast, but you're a manager in the league. There's a massive difference between your reserve team to your first team.
Huge jump.
And one of the big things that probably we got a good ground and all back in the day was, if you were decent enough, you were pushed into that bigger team. And then if you were able to bypass that team, you continued on that trajectory. It was like, go play with the men.
Yeah.
Get yourself physically ready.
You were like that, Johnny, at no age. Now, I remember we played against, you played for Cliftonville Strollers, and you played against Carrick and at Taylor's Avenue. And we played one of the cup games. And you were at a time at Cliftonville where they had a really, really strong first team. Around about 2015, when they were going towards winning their second league title, you had obviously Boise and Gormley up front. That, like, me.
Pity that, wasn't it?
Stevie Garrett was there at the time and that there, and he jumped in. But I remember playing against you, and Jay Donnelly played up front and that there in the Cliftonville Strollers team. Big Ran Orfers played at the back.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, you were a man-child. Like, you mean, you were so young but so physical that you caused us so many. I think we won that game 6-4.
Yeah.
And I think you and Jay scored 2 each that day, like, you mean. But I remember seeing you being so strong, raw but strong and powerful, like, you mean. And some people just have that natural from a very early doors, not, like, you mean. And I remember trying to get you afterwards, but apparently you already done a deal with Warren Point to go to Warren Point.
Skin done that.
Skin did.
He'll be on. I'm going to have that conversation.
Yeah, listen, I remember coming off the pitch and that, thinking to myself, we need to get that big centre forward. He's a powerful boy for your age and that, like, you mean. We ended up getting Adam Sally.
Yes.
So we did, and Adam came in and done brilliant for us. But
another
similar kind of, very, very well put together young lad.
That's because
the
grounding you get from men's football. Like, at that time, your reserve team was pretty much another 11. They played down, and you weren't allowed to be complacent. You just had to be physical. And
you were super that day and caused us a problem. We had a really good Carrick team at that time. And we ran out in the end because you were probably missing a couple of players at the back, but going forward you were so exciting and so good, and you went to Warren Point and done fantastically well there too, like, you mean. But some people just are naturally kind of are ahead of the curve in that there in terms of that physicality. I think definitely playing up a year group and stretching yourself and coming out of your comfort zone, being stretched and having a club that believes in pushing the pathway and pushing people that have that little bit more about them, you know, push them, take them up and that, like, and see how they cope, move them back down if they don't quite cope in that there, but more times than enough, if you give them an opportunity, they'll thrive. And Alfie's managed to thrive in that, like, you mean, and sort of and push ahead and that, and he moves away from home on Wednesday here, like, you mean, so it's
sad times.
There'll be there's tears in our house, believe you me, sure. Johnny. Them tissues are there for a reason.
We've all used them. I'll give you them.
You know, there'll be tears when he goes. But for me, they're happy tears because this is what he wants to do with his life. And he's got a fantastic opportunity. He's committed to a long-term contract with Palace and that there. And he's been everywhere and crossing different trials, different places. And this was where he wanted to go. And they've been exceptionally good to him. So, listen,
it's a good make-up.
It's up to him. It's up to him, Johnny. He's got an opportunity. It's what he does with it and that looks counts.
In terms of your own vision at that stage, you've obviously made this determined person at a young age going, I'm going to make it professional. You get the opportunity to sign for Wolves, which is probably an incredibly proud and fulfilling moment for yourself.
For your family too, Johnny.
What was it like going over?
It's for your family too, because you can't get anywhere without your family. You need that support. I'm incredibly lucky because I take it for granted. Like, I had my mum and my dad, my sister, my brother. I had a family unit. Not every kid has that. Like, they just don't. Everybody's circumstances are different, and they don't have somebody that's constantly taking to the football and dropping everything at a drop of a hat to go and allow you to fulfil what you want to do. So I'm really grateful for everything they done for me and that there to put me in the position to allow me to go and fulfil this here, to be there. But when I signed for Wolves and that there, I think the proudest thing was whenever I was able to fly my mum and dad over and that there, and we went to sign and that there, and I put a picture up actually just yesterday, like, my dad and my mum in that picture, and it was Mark McGee was the manager at the time, who my dad would have remembered that era of player, and he bent Mark's ear, something shocking. My dad, he had the ear bent off him, what I mean, but to put them into that environment, to come and show them around the Molyneux where we were based all the time. I went straight into playing men's football at 16. So I was playing resi football now there, but playing with senior professional footballers, the Darren Fergusons of this world. There was Steve Bull was there at the time. It was a club icon. Dean Richards that went on to play for Spurs and that. You could go through the whole first team. Stevie Froggatt. People that older generations of people who remember, not so much the younger generation, but we had a youth team with McMurray, who was the goalkeeper that I lived with, and out there for 2-3 years. I lived with Matty. Robbie Keane was in our youth team. Keith Andrews, a Brentford manager, was in our youth team. Exceptional youth team, and out there that had unbelievable success. Lee Naylor played for Celtic and played for Cardiff in the Premier League. Left back, and out there Ryan Green was the youngest ever Welsh international at the time in our youth team. I could go through the whole youth team. They were an exceptionally talented group. For me just to be there, Johnny, I think there was always that little tiny wee bit of that inferiority complex was definitely there from an early age. We're thinking I don't belong here. Do you know what I mean? But determined to try and stay there as long as I possibly could and try to get as much out of that experience as I could. Like I said, I got so lucky that I was able to play in the resis pretty much as soon as I got there, and sometimes you need an injury in football to kind of get you that opportunity. And an injury happened to a guy called Michael Jelks in the first team, and Lee Naylor bumped up one, so I got the bump up one as well. So I was playing youth team and resis from a very, very early age and playing men's football, which physically allows you to be competitive, and there's no excuses. They don't take age into consideration. You're playing men's football and you're there.
If you're there, you're good enough.
Well, that's it. And that throughout my time there, I managed to play a lot of games and that, so I did. And we first team opportunity against Northampton in a cup game and that, and all of a sudden then you're thinking out there, I could maybe play at some level of the game. So I did, but like I said, it's just incredibly lucky to be around the environment and the players I got to play with. It's something money can't buy. Do you know what I mean? You have to get there on merit. You have to get there with a certain amount of ability. And I think I probably maximised the ability I had. My level probably was Irish League football. But yeah, listen, while I was there, I absolutely loved every second of being at that football club. It was so well looked after. It's just memories that last a lifetime.
Was it hard for you to move on past Wolves, considering you'd set yourself up, you'd been there 2-3 years? Obviously, Swindon was next, but you were...
Bolton was next.
Bolton, sorry.
Yeah, no, Bolton. Yeah. Sorry.
Yes, Bolton, it was Bolton yesterday.
Yeah. I played in a resi game on Wednesday, right, on a Wednesday night, and I played against Mixu... who played in that game? Ida Johnson.
Okay.
Who went on to play for Barcelona.
Yeah. Chelsea and all, wasn't it?
Chelsea, Barcelona, so he did. Ida played up front there in a resi game because they had just signed this young lad, Icelandic lad. He had a bad injury. He was coming back and trying to prove fitness. We had loads of Scandinavians at Bolton at the time. I played in the Wednesday night, and I thought I played really well. Manager was there. Their manager was there. It was Colin Todd was down watching the game, and I thought I had a really good game. I just one of them nights you had everything. I was playing left side centre half. When I first broke in, I was playing left back. I was now moved into centre half. I was now 19 years of age. Grew up a wee bit, filled out a wee bit. Had a really good game in that, and I got pulled in the next day, and I thought, happy days, I'm maybe going up with the first team, going to travel maybe at the weekend, and I get told that I was going to Bolton. So it is, and that was pretty much it. There was none of this, do I have a choice?
Handshake, see you later, son, close the door.
Yeah, pretty much not there. When I was at Wolves, Keith Curl, who had been in England, England set up and out there, he was there. Dean Richards was there. A fella, Steve Sedgley, who played with Gaza at Spurs, was there. Neil Emblem was another centre half that was there. I wasn't breaking into that anytime soon. They were all massively senior international players, playing at a really high level. So to get the opportunity then to go to Bolton, I didn't know where Bolton was. I didn't know how I was getting there, and it was pretty much as you're going to Bolton and you're meeting a guy and you're going up there because they've just signed you. And I was like, okay. and that was it.
Yeah.
I went home and I packed my stuff up, and I actually came home and that, like, to me, because it was coming towards the end of the season, came home and that there, and me and my dad flew to Bolton. So they just sent flights and that there, and away we went, and me and my dad went to Bolton, and they offered me a contract, and I remember, like, me meeting with the chief executive, and I met with the manager and that there, and I signed. They'd offered me a deal, so I didn't know beforehand, no agents or anything. I took my dad with me.
Yeah.
And they go, do you want a minute to think about it, like, do you mean? And they made me a really good offer at that time, Johnny, like, do you mean? I was 19 years of age and that, like, do you mean? And I think they offered me something like $650 a week and that there at 19 years of age and that there, back in
100%, yeah.
early, like, late 90s and that there, early 2000s. It was a great contract. Bonuses for playing resi football. There was all add-ons, accommodation all covered and everything else. And he said, do you want a minute to think about it? And I walked out with my dad, and we were at the Reebok Stadium, and we walked down to the pitch, and he says, how long do we stay out here before you get in and sign up? Like, so my dad said to me, oh, we're allowed to curse. He says, you better get in there and sign up. We were signing up pretty strict right before they changed their mind. Exactly. Like, he goes, we'll walk a lap round the pitch just to kill a bit of time to make them think that we're talking about it, like, you know what I mean? But yeah, I went in and I signed 3 years or something like that there at that stage and that, like, you mean? And it was incredible.
Yeah.
Because I was moving from a big team in the Championship to another massive team in the Championship. Mm-hmm. So I was, like, you mean? And I went with a manager that had just signed me, like, you mean? And Colin Todd and Phil Brown was the assistant manager there. And and it was
Phil Brown's a complete character, isn't he?
Yeah. Phil, yeah. Well, he's the guy.
Was he always like that?
One. He always having himself in that there, full of confidence and that there, but he was a good player.
Yeah.
He had a better tan than me, so he did, Johnny. Like, my terrible fade, his was all year round. You know what I mean? But yeah, he was a great coach, and he was on the grass every day and everything else. And then there was it. You were moving to Bolton, like, you mean? And I was above Bolton, and during that time there, it was brilliant because I was away with first team of pre-season. We went to Italy, we went to Denmark, we went to America and that there, and I went on all these trips with the first team and everything else. And
brilliant.
Yeah, people like, but again, as you talk about competition for places, two centre halves at the time was like Gudni Bergerson was the Icelandic captain, and he was playing. Mark Fish was the captain of South Africa, and he was playing. Mike Whitlow had played 400 games in the Premier League, and he was there, like, to me still, yeah. And you think to yourself, well, I ain't replacing them anytime soon. But you're amongst them then, Johnny. You're in that their kind of mould, and yeah, people like Eidur Johnson, so many Scandinavians that time. You see, Askelainen was a goalkeeper, like Klaus Jensen, centre midfielder, Per Fransen, centre midfielder, Danish international players. You're moving in international, running shoulders with these boys, Michael Johansson, Arne Larsen. You could go on about all the Scandos. There's loads of them boys not there. And then there was a good mould of younger players like Dean Holden out there, who's done really well. He's a Hull coach out there now. He's done really well in a bit of management at Charlton. David Norris, who went on, had a great career and that, like, I mean, was there as a young player. Kevin Nolan was coming through at the time.
Yeah.
And I was there as one of the younger players coming through at the time, you know. And
well, he went on to have a fantastic career at Bolton, didn't he? He was their most capped player in here.
Kev, like, you mean, big nobby, brilliant career, unbelievable, great lad as well.
Forward as well. Oh my
yeah, and just being in the most of them. Dean Holdsworth and that there, like, you mean, it was early 90s, late 90s and that there. A lot of people remember Wimbledon, the Crazy Gang and stuff, I guess. Dino was there, like, you mean, great player. Michael Ricketts came through at a time then. But I was only there, like, you mean, and do you know what was great? Because the manager signed you. So you're there and not there because the first team manager wanted you there and he signed you and everything else. 3 months later, not there after signing for Bolton, he quit.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay.
We sold Per Fransen to Blackburn, like, you mean, so we did for a little fee and that there, and we came in, played a game and that there, and the night after he came in, the gaffer, and he just says, that's me, right, boys. I told him when he started selling my best players, that was me done. Like, Per was on throw-ins, by balls, goal kicks, right, you know what I mean? He's taking corners, set pieces, you know, he was key, he was everything. So he was, and we sold him and that there, and then Colin came in and quit, and then Phil took over for about 6 games and then Big Sam Allardyce came in and I got to work with Big Sam for a couple of years, you know what I mean, which was a brilliant experience and that, like, and then a big change in the football club and out there.
Did you see a change in styles at that stage? Because Big Sam's obviously running for the one side of things that he does, and he's been very good at it consistently for a long time. But yeah, I mean, styles back then were kind of similar, weren't they? It was 4-4-2 and play the big man there enough. But
for sure. Yeah, no, that was very much the case. Now, ball went back to front. There was none of this building business, like, you mean, that the boys have now. Like, so, I mean, it was get it out your feet, knock it into your big man and play up in their half of the pitch. What Big Sam was brilliant at, like, I mean, he works a thing called POMO, position of maximum opportunity. He basically broke down, and statistically, if you put balls into certain areas of the park and you have people who can compete in that, and you flood that area, the chances is you'll score goals.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, defensively, if you fill the heart of the goal, you fill that area, like, I mean, you won't concede too many. So we just worked off stats as to how many numbers can we get into these areas. That's why Kevin Nolan had such a successful career.
Yeah.
Ball going in from a wide area, Kevin Davis competed for everything. So even if he lost the header, the chances is it wasn't a clean header and it didn't really leave that area. A big Kev arrived and that there, and bang, he just picked up a lot of second.
Was that strange at that stage that somebody was so focused on statistics? Because it's huge now.
Yeah.
Everything we do now is extra 1%, extra 2%, whereas gym, running, whatever it is.
Well,
but for then,
yeah, it was massive. But, you know, he was ahead of his time in a lot of things. Now the GPS came in at that stage. Now there, now the pack was about that big. You had to have it on your back.
It was just a weighted bar.
It wasn't as easy to lunked around as what it is now. And the best were a wee
phone.
Aye.
Oh God.
But what he did is, in that there, you know what Sam did is, because he spent a bit of time out in America and he's seen what the American guys were doing in terms of how they were conditioning themselves. Powerlifting became a big thing, and out there, lift, clean and jerks, and that, like, I mean, became a thing, being more explosive, doing these things and that there. And up until that stage, there was very little S&C in that there that was part of it. But Sam came in that there and brought a whole S&C team in. And then we were doing like different movements in the gym, different jumps and that, like, I mean, jumping height and that, they're rallying over wee hurdles. SAQ would have been a thing that people had done, like, to feed up footwork.
Just try and speed yourself up a wee bit,
but no real science behind it, really. Parachutes and stuff like this. Big Sam introduced all that. Bands work came in that there a lot more.
So see resistance in people taking that on from that older sort of generation to be like, I'm fucking doing Bamber. What the fuck's he doing this?
Yeah.
And then there's kids coming in and being like, I'm all in.
Yeah. He brought in like sprint coaches and endurance coaches and stuff, and he brought people in from an athletic background. So again, he brought in another team of people to kind of work on more specific, sort of, you know, football now, it's you run, you jog, you walk, do you know what I mean, you sprint. And that's what it is. So then training need to be designed around that. When I was a kid, now we done like 10-mile runs and 5-mile runs, and that you don't ever do that sustained running in football. So the running became a lot more specific to what the demands of the game.
Yeah.
So he brought that in really, really early doors, and that, like, I mean, so instead of like just running round and round and countless laps and laps and laps, which the boys all hated, like, I mean, he started bringing in like a box to box run out there, and then a walk and a jog, and then a walk and a jog, and then the box to box, and he sort of broke it up, and it became more like you see it nowadays. Yeah. But Sam was doing that there in the early 2000s, like, you know what I mean? That's what he was doing, and so I think he was a little bit ahead of his time in that there, in terms of that. He gets that big thing as Big Sam, and you think he's a big ignoramus and that there about how he does it, but he was massively into sports psychology too. Brought in Mike Ford, the sports psychologist that went with England in the 2003 World Cup, and they won the World Cup. Massively into that, like, in a big way, and Clive Woodward and then the 1% and all that stuff, and Dave Berlford, all the 1% clubs and that there, and then people. Mike Ford was very much ahead of that, like, you mean, as well at the time, and Big Sam brought him into the football club and had the boys positive visualization, all that stuff. Sam was massively into it. So the persona of what he portrayed, not there, I'm not saying he didn't play up to it and stuff at times. There was a lot more science behind what he'd done and that than what he showed.
In terms of that stage, you obviously spent quite a bit of time with Big Sam. Did he leave before you did? Or
no,
did you go?
I left and that. The club then got promoted after a couple of seasons. That they promoted to the Premier League. So you're up now playing Premier League opposition and stuff, I guess, and this and then it was like, you bring in people like Yuri Georgiev, he just won the World Cup in '96, and I remember watching him win the World Cup. So he did, you know what I mean? You brought in people like Ivan Campo, so he did, who played for Real Madrid. You know, you brought in big Fernando Herrera, who was the captain for Real Madrid for so many years. JJ Okocha came in at that stage, and that, like, I was just transitioning out of the club as them boys were coming through, because you were never, like, you know, I mean,
he set the whole Premier League on fire.
He
was immense.
I was still living more in the area and stuff at times not there, and you call in and see games and stuff, I guess, and he was ridiculously talented, like, do you mean? So all them boys were coming in at a time and that, like, do you mean? And we sort of think you're never going to get an opportunity there. There's so many players coming through, like, and obviously Sam done an exceptional job at Bolton, and I just wasn't at that level, like, do you mean, John? No shame in that, like, do you mean? Because of the level that you're competing about.
100%.
Again, money can't buy the experience you gain from it, and you try to take absolutely everything from it you possibly can, and you go on to the next level, like, do you mean, which you end up down at Swindon there. And I was at Swindon, and again I signed for Andy King down at Swindon, and he was great with me and brilliant and that, like, got in and was playing games and playing matches, but again then he left after, he had family reasons and that, and left after about 6 months. And then Roy Evans and Ned Ruddock came in at that time, like, do you mean, and they come in, and again unbelievable experiences, Liverpool and what he'd done, and Razor what he'd done in his career. But again, his limited opportunities, limited game time. Moved on to Yeovil. I'll fast forward for it, so like, you don't have to
they're all
bore
down here,
you don't
so
have to
don't
bore
be
it.
worrying that.
Went to Yeovil and I had a really good year down at Yeovil and really enjoyed it, like you mean. But I'd started getting to the point where I kind of was thinking to myself, I was dropping down the leagues. I was struggling with a bit of a hernia problem. I wasn't really training, and I think sometimes now what you get is you can get very isolated, especially when you're a young player and you come down to a club. And you spend a lot of time on your own, and I was in confined, like it was pretty much a hotel room and that there I was in the whole time I was there. And yeah, when you're injured and you're not training, you're not involved enough but not, like to me, it can become very isolating.
Yeah.
And then you have to make a decision out there as to what do you do? Do you try and stick it out for a bit longer? I probably stuck it out 6-7 months longer than I probably should have done. I probably should have came home a bit earlier. But that's a hard conversation to have, Johnny.
It is,
really,
especially when
really
you're
hard
pro.
conversation.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
hard conversation to have with people that you're really honest with, and that they're like your family and stuff, I guess. And I remember phoning my mum, and I was actually ignoring my mum. I was trying to hide from her a little bit.
Okay.
I was trying to, and I never hid from my mum and that there. She knew me better than anybody, like you mean, and ignoring phone calls, and that wasn't like me because I talked to her so regular. I was trying to avoid the phone call because I probably knew it myself. I knew it was time for me to come home, and I needed to have it, but I was fighting against it a little bit, probably struggling a little bit in myself and that, like you mean, about not really wanting to admit it, like, but knowing deep down that was probably the case. And I remember eventually in that there, I got my mum and that, like, she phoned me and that, I can't ignore this woman anymore, she's going to think I'm dead. Do you know what I mean? Because she always thinks worst case scenario, she'd be worried sick.
Or
and
she
that,
turns
like,
up the door being like, get home.
Get home,
back now, it's you.
yeah. But I was down in Somerset, down at Yeovil and that there, and I phoned my mum and that, and I said to her, Mum, listen, she goes, you're not okay, what's wrong? What is it? I said, Mum, I'm struggling, I probably need to come home. And she goes, yeah, speak to your dad. And I go, no, don't speak to dad. It's okay. I'll get it out a wee bit longer because I didn't want to let him down, Johnny.
That was a normal thing back then, wasn't it? You seem like it's never publicised.
Yeah.
Especially for probably people at your age, that stage. You're probably 25, 26, 20, maybe.
Yeah,
20,
25 in it. But
no one talked about how mental health was a massive thing.
Yeah,
no. It was like, no, I'm all right.
Definitely not. Definitely not. And I never wanted to let my dad down. And the whole time I was over there, like, I mean, I knew how proud he was of me and everything else and that. And I was so scared of letting him down. So I constantly then was fighting against that more than what I actually needed. And that then I probably needed to come home. I needed that family environment again around me. I needed people around me and that, like, I mean, a little bit at that stage. And that was hard for me to admit and that there. But my mum's phone goes, you don't speak to your dad. I said, no, don't bother, Dad. It's fine. I'll be okay. I'll be grand. She goes, your dad will be home and that there from work. He's going to phone you at 5 o'clock. Make sure you answer 5:30 or whatever time he's home. Make sure you answer your phone.
You're waiting on it, sweating.
Dread it, Johnny. I was dreading the phone call. I thought it'd be all right. I'll front it up. I'll be okay. I'll put a brave face on it, like you mean, everything else. And he phones me, goes, Mum says to phone you. What's up with you? And you know what, Johnny? I just kind of, I thought, I can't. Do you know what I mean? I need to go home. I says, Dad, I'm struggling. He says, I think I need to come home. And at that point, Johnny, that's really, really hard for me to admit it to it because I was so proud of being there, like you mean, and doing it, and like you mean, I didn't want to let people down. And that was a hard phone call for me to have. But my dad turned around and says, that's okay. Give me an hour. Right? So give him an hour and out there. I thought, what's he going to say? He's going to phone in an hour's time. And he phoned me back in an hour's time. He says, I've booked on. I'll get you tomorrow.
Did he come over? Class.
Yeah. You need them tissues. Like, you know,
I need the tissues.
But that's what my dad was to me. Like, I mean, Johnny, like, I mean, the thing that I feared the most was letting him down. And the second I needed him, he was there for me.
Hug?
Always, pal. Always. But you know what? Like, I mean, that's...
I haven't used these in a while, guys.
That's what good parenting is, Johnny. That's what good parenting is, and that there. It's when you need them the most and that they're there for you.
Yeah.
And I've taken so much of them from that, like, I mean, that phone call that I had with my dad. My dad's not here anymore, so he's not. He passed away 6 years coming up here in July. So it did, like, I mean, and gone far too soon. But when I needed him, when I was at my lowest, he got the boat over to Scotland and drove from Scotland down to Somerset. That's a good 7-8 hours journey. So it's for him and that, like, I mean, and he was there for me that next day. He was on the first boat out and that he could get, and he was there for me. We packed up the stuff and that, and we drove back up. He drove all the way back up to Scotland. He did a U-turn and went straight back up the road again and brought me home.
It's mad to think too when you consider that's what you would do.
Yeah, and I wouldn't think twice about it. Like, I wouldn't think twice about it. Like, I mean, if he ever feels that he needs to have that phone call, I might fly over. My dad was miserable. Like, do you know what I mean? He wouldn't pay the flights. He probably, I think he probably knew somebody who'd get across in the boat cheaper. Like, do you know what I mean? It was probably the cheapest way of doing it.
Yeah, that's what you can do now. You have partnership with Lauren. You get it for £3.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But he was there for me, Johnny. Like, do you mean, like he always was. Like, do you mean, and the one person I didn't want to let down was the one person that was there for me the most.
Yeah.
And do you know what? And coming home was the best thing for me at that stage. And that, like, I mean, and got back into the house with my family around me and everyone else not there. And I was just felt the relief. The relief of that, actually having that conversation, was the biggest weight taken off my shoulders I've ever had at that stage. I didn't really go through too much hardship at that till 25 and out there, 24, 25. It didn't really that much hardship. Everything had gone quite smoothly for me, like, do you know what I mean? I never excelled at school academically and out there. I was always a sociable person. I always wanted to be out playing football and being out of school and more than I ever wanted to be there. So football was my niche out there, and I went with so much high expectation and everything else. I didn't want to let my friends down. I knew how proud they were of me too, like, do you mean? And I was always fearful of letting people down, and I've always been like that. And I continue to be like that there. I'm fearful of letting people down. But I do know in that, like, do you mean, because of having good people around me and surrounding myself with the right kind of people, I've always given myself the best chance.
Yeah.
And because of my family and how supportive they've been of me and that there is why I'm sitting here now.
So do you still believe that's the way you are now as a manager?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If people need me, I'm there for them.
But in terms of you trying to live up to that, I'm afraid of letting people down, that sort of inner self-belief near enough, that you don't want that side of things to take over.
Yeah, I think in that day, like, you gain confidence in that from experience and that, like, of being there and doing it. Like, I mean, I don't lack self-belief or self-confidence in that. I don't lack them things. I've always sort of felt in that there that I
feel like you prepare too much for the confidence not to be there.
Yeah,
that's what I would take from it.
I think in that you definitely not their preparation for everything. Now, if you can put all the work in and you can prepare as best you possibly can, and you can leave no stone unturned, and you can prepare not there, and you go through that process of always being the best version of yourself you can be. When the moment comes not there, then you can live with the consequences. Yeah. I can live with not being good enough playing in England, Johnny. I can live with it like a whole day long because I gave it my best. I think if you go there and you don't give it your best and you don't try your hardest and you don't stay away from drinking and doing the wrong things not there, and I did the best I possibly could, and I lived the best life I possibly could not there at that time. So I did, I did things at the right time. I had fun with my friends whenever I had the right time, but when I was over there I was so focused and so determined to be successful. I can live with knowing I give it my best shot, that I didn't piss it away and I didn't mess around. I was the best version of myself every time when I went into that training ground and that, like, to me, and I can live with not being good enough. Yeah. I'm fine with that, like, to me, knowing that I give everything. So days, and I understood that I had a window probably as a player, but there's probably not the same window for me as a coach or as a manager. I think there's a much not there higher ceiling for me at that, because I think I could excel much more at this than I ever could at players as a player. So dude, so again, is whenever I came away from management, then I threw myself into coming back home and that there and being the best version of myself here. A lot of guys come back from England and they're so disillusioned with the game and they're so heartbroken about not making the grade, or they're so sort of the level that they've been at, they see this as a step down. Well, I grew up not being an Irish League fan. I grew up in that there going down to games at Enver Park and that there. By the time I left, I was watching a championship winning side and that there, the Cruise, So I grew up an Irish League fan.
Yeah.
So coming back to the Irish League and that there was my massive ambition. As an 11-year-old, all I wanted to do was play for Lauren Tech Old Boys. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was my ambition, was playing in the Premier, or playing in the Amateur League for Lauren Tech Old Boys.
Great social club.
Aye,
let's not talk about that. Unbelievable.
Lifelong member, like, do you know what I mean? I'm never leaving there.
It's so good.
John Devine and that there, and so you go in there. Legends, Paul Hardy's in there, like, it's like the legends of the legends go drink in the Tech Club. Do you know what I mean? But that was my ambition. So to go to Wolves was far exceeded my expectation. To play for Bolton, Swindon and Yeovil, to spend nearly 10 years in England, that far exceeded my ability levels ever could.
Yeah.
But it was my mentality, it was my attitude, it was my determination, it was my person who I was not there. I got the opportunity for them reasons, not so much because of my talent as a footballer, Yeah. So coming back to Irish League and that, there was a dream for me, because I love playing in Irish League grounds and that, like, and being around Irish League football, So coming back there wasn't a hardship for me. It was a next challenge and that. And
that's you ready to go.
And that's me ready to go.
And see, whenever you did come back, in terms of like being a professional, you've been away for quite a long period of time, almost 10, maybe 11 years. Lisburn Distillery must have been one of the biggest teams at that time. We obviously have seen the fall pretty much of Distillery over the years, but at that time they must have been right up there.
Do you know what's funny? I came back and I trained with the Glens, with Roy Coyle and that there when I first came back and that there, and I trained for them for about, it must have been about 3 weeks. I played a couple of pre-season friendlies, played against Ayr and I played against somebody else and that there, St Johnson maybe, or some St Mirren maybe, one of them Scottish teams and that there. I actually felt I'd done really well at the time, but they had a really good side too. They had obviously Chris Walker and Gary Smith and that was playing centre half and stuff for them at the time. But they were hem and hand and it was stretching out and it was spending weeks and that there. And Paul Kirk phoned me. And seeing that there, whenever you think, when you're low in that, like, I mean, or you're at a period of time of having little bits of doubt, you need someone like a Paul Kirk in your life and that, like, I mean, at that stage. And maybe going to the Glens at the time might have been something that there, but it was just dragging out, and they weren't really coming to me with anything. I was still turning up and training and thinking to myself, what's happening here, like, I mean. But Paul Kirk and that there phoned me and he says, like, Gary, we want to sign you. We need you here at this football club. And seeing that there periods of time, you'll have somebody that'll make you feel you're 10 feet tall.
100%, yeah.
Paul done that for me at a time I probably needed it.
Yeah.
I was probably a little bit low. I was still probably lacking a little bit of confidence, trying to rebuild myself and that. I'd been away for such a long period of time. People didn't really know who I was because the Irish League, and it wasn't like social media and forums now, where you know
every kid who's coming back.
There's not a kid in this country that I don't know who plays football probably, you know what I mean? Or what's available over in England that might come home and stuff, I guess. So Paul Kirk at a time and that there came in and brought me into the club, and within 2 games he made me captain of his club and that there, and it was my first real kind of, I suppose, cement my place in the senior team at that stage. And after 2 games he gave me the armband, so he did. So he put so much faith in me and maybe feel 10 foot tall, like, you know what I mean. He just feel good factor, confidence and that there that he gave me, played week in week out, and it was brilliant.
You were back. That was you back then. You're settled.
Yeah, I felt a really big part of a club. Do you know what's funny, Johnny, and that for being so average and that there, I never ever wanted to be average. I always wanted to be a little bit more. I never wanted to just be another player. I wanted to be a captain. You keep saying
that you think that you're average. But in hindsight, there's not many people who have played in the Championship.
Yeah.
There's not many people who have had these clubs. So I think we have to get away from the fact that you're average. Because if you're saying you're average, I'm shite, because I never made it across to England at all, never even got a sniff.
But there was so many talented boys, Johnny, that should have got the opportunity. Nowadays, you maybe would have done with Brexit and stuff, certainly at your age when you were coming through.
Brexit happened 10 years ago.
But no, but
it would have been in the shit 10 years ago. But so we're not getting into the political side of things. But in hindsight, not many people get to achieve a goal to be professional footballers. I got to do that at Larne, which I am forever thankful for.
Yeah,
be a full-time footballer. You got to do that in England.
Yeah, and it was an absolute dream, and it was an absolute dream. And at that stage, whenever I came home, Johnny, never ever did I ever think I'd work in full-time football again. I thought that was a chapter of my life and that there would be closed, because I never thought the Irish League would go the way it went, and that until Kenny came back and did what he did at Larne and went full-time.
Progression's fantastic.
Unbelievable. Yeah. It's unbelievable now that I pinch myself that I've actually worked for Larne for 8 years and that in a full-time role.
Yeah.
So I have, like, be it through different forums, like, But yeah, like, at 25 and that there, to come back to the Irish League and Paul Kirk to give me that opportunity and that experience and that there, I'm somebody that's practiced massively gratitude and that there. I'm so grateful to him. Mm-hmm. He picked me up and he was the perfect person for me that moment in my time, and that's exactly what I needed. I gained so much confidence from being around Paul Kirk.
Yeah.
So it did, he gave me exactly what I needed at that time. And maybe Distillery wasn't a Linfield or a Glentoran or anything like that there, but he was exactly the person I needed at that period of my life.
And who would have been a part of that team, players wise?
Marky Holland that I would have gone on to Cliftonville. John Martin I would have gone on to the Blues. Philip Major would have been them. Philip Major. I actually played centre half with Brian Strain. Apologies, Brian. Brian Strain. Yeah. I played with Brian Strain and Philip Major was the 2 centre halves. Now they had done it and been there and done it and won everything in the Irish League. So they did, and they were playing down at Distillery and that. They won so much at Portadown, such successful careers with the Glens and as well. Brilliant. What experience, 2 boys to fit in beside. Philip Matthews and nets, Chrissy Deegan playing left back and Ali doing Gary Clifford. I don't forget footballers. I can tell you the whole team. Jimmy McCluskey was there, brilliant. Stevie McBride up top, brilliant team and that. They're really experienced. To go in there and at sort of 24, 25 to be given the captain's armband to lead so many senior players, especially when you have so much experience and so many quality players, hell of an honour. You
take it as that now, Did you take it as that then, or was there a lot of pressure with it because you've just came back and you're like...
I didn't know anybody overly, Johnny. The league moves on as well, such and that there. Like, I mean, I wasn't fearful. I went in and that, like, I thought, right, this is my opportunity to establish myself. I can have an Irish League career here and that, like, and I can build from here, like, and I felt I was still young enough and that there that if I did well enough, you never know. You never know, you might go across the water again. But yeah, I had an unbelievable season at Distillery. Gave me such a prestige in that there of captain that football club. It's a great football club. I'm sad to see where they are currently, like he said, but there's no reason why they can't bounce back, and I'd still keep an eye for results, and I'll be forever grateful for the season I spent there. But at the end of the year, I'd done so well that I was getting the attention of from the Glens and the Blues and from Coleraine, and and they were chasing pretty heavily, at the time, and I made the decision at that stage to move on to because I wanted to win. I wanted to challenge for trophies. I wanted to win trophies. Distillery probably wasn't at a stage where they could challenge for trophies just at that time. And I had to go to a club that I felt that could, and I did that with by going to Coleraine in the end.
Was it an easy decision to choose Coleraine, or did you logistically think about it going, I'm from Northern, I'll scoot down the road, they'll be alright? Or was it more so the fact that Linfield, Glentoran, the players that are in there, you've obviously wanted to play, it's more so probably about game time at this stage?
Yeah, probably a wee bit of that. Garth McCauley definitely played a big part in that. He tapped the life out of me and to get me to Coleraine. Garth's a good friend of mine. He was at Coleraine at the time with Marty Quinn, and Marty was pushing really hard in that, and Coleraine had formed that squad. Wow, that squad of players. I went and met with the Blues and that, so we did, right, and I'll tell you a story because it goes back to my dad again, and so I didn't drive, Johnny. I was 24, I didn't drive. Shameful, but I didn't drive and that,
Sound like Tomas Cosgrove.
That
was a joke.
I wait till you're a bit older. I don't know why, for the life of me, why I didn't. Maybe because it was England and people always just took me around. But my dad and that there then had met me because he knew I was going to meet the Blues afterwards. Normally I would have travelled with one of the other players, but my dad came up to meet me because I had to go over to Windsor to meet Davy afterwards. So my dad picks me up and we go over to Windsor, and the boys are finished training and Davy's in the old office at the old Windsor, and I get out of the car and that there, and I am so respectful of my dad and that, I thought myself, I literally took about 3 steps and I thought, am I actually going to let my dad sit in the car while I sit inside having a conversation? And the way Davy talks and I talk, it could be a long conversation. I can't keep my dad sitting. So I went back to the car and opened the door and says, Dad, do you want to come in with me? Do you want to come with me? And he was in the door and sitting in Davy's office before I even closed the door of the car. So it was, and we went in and sat down, and Davy was obviously talking about Linfield and that there in the football club that it is, and I've got a great respect for Linfield Football Club for the traditions and for the success that they've had and that there, but he's very much talking up in that there Linfield about the honour of playing for Linfield, and people come for less money to play for Linfield than what they're offered elsewhere. He knew there was competition there. And my dad turned around and said to Davy, he said, he says, yeah, that might be the case, but you're sitting here because you want us sit here and you want him to play for you. So what is it you're going to do for him? I didn't even get a word in, whatever. I just sat there going, let's just say nothing. So my dad's obviously now taking the lead. He's agent mode. He's gone into agent mode.
He got out of the seat.
And he kind of basically, Davy says, obviously we've got Winky and we've got Noel and that, 2 unbelievable centre halves, he said to him, but I see Gary maybe coming in and playing left back for a period of time, or maybe even in midfield at certain stages, because I maybe could have got away with playing in midfield in Irish League. But we see him coming in and then eventually transitioning into left back and replacing the 2 older boys. Noel was getting on a bit, Winky was getting on a bit. And my dad says, let me stop you there, Davy. He says, right, do you think he's a left back? And he's pointing at me like I'm some sort of pleb. So he is, do you know what I mean? He's looking at me, he said, do you think he's a left back? He says, you'd be better signing me at left back than sign him. He says, Gary plays centre midfielder, centre half, or he doesn't play. He says to him, he'd not give you what he needs in that there, and he won't get over what he needs in that there if he plays them positions. And Davy goes, no, I think he can. I think he's got a lovely left foot. He can do this. He can get forward and that there. It goes, well, listen, we'll agree to disagree anyway, Davy, but thanks for your time. And that was the end of that there. Up we got and out we walked.
So your dad just cut your Linfield deal completely?
I had a pen in my pocket, Johnny. I went over to sign. I was signing. This wasn't a negotiation.
Your dad just got a big axe and just went, nope.
Whatever they put in front of me, that I was prepared to sign and that, do you know what I mean? It was what it was, not but do you know what? It goes back to them moments in time and that, where I'm grateful he did that for himself, because I wouldn't have done myself justice as a left back.
Yeah.
I wasn't good enough in that there. I wasn't not good enough. I don't think I would have showed the best of myself at left back.
And plus, you're obviously going in there in a situation where you're covering. Do you know, I always find that if you go in to do a job for somebody, there's only so long of a period you'll do that before they go, I need somebody who's going to go in there, and then if you're not going to replace that position that you're supposed to be in, you're just waiting. Do you know what I mean?
Listen, I could have won a lot more medals and that there, and I could have showed for it, like you mean, and got, like, you know what I mean, and everything that goes with Linfield Football Club and that there, which is a great football club, and it would have been a privilege to play for that football club, and never materialised in that there because that was how the conversation
went. Your dad killed you.
Because my dad just buried it flat, like, so he did. He
Here,
killed,
you know what? There's
not
many people that bury DJ.
No. To be fair, he did it in a respectful way, as much as respectful as, like, well, you clearly don't know what you're talking about. We're going to go. Do you know what I mean? As clearly as that, respectfully as that can be, like, do you know what I mean? And but I had a really good feeling with Marty Quinn and that, like, so he did, and Big G and that, like, do you mean? And Marty came down and met me behind Dee's Diner and Lauren, you know what Dee's Diner is, that we lost his shop. In behind Losty's now, and I signed in the back of a wee electrical shop. No, he was a wee electrical fan, that, so he was a Spark, Marty was, and I signed for Marty and the Sparks fan, like, to me, no fancy negotiations. Get in, son. Stood in the side seating out there. Marty's got his packed lunch sat here and everything else, and I love that about Marty. I love that about Marty.
That's the personality, isn't it?
Well, it was the person, the man that he is now there. The man that he is now there is just incredible. Like, you mean, he's so enthusiastic, he's so infectious, you know, so determined to be successful. Like, you mean, and I just got a really good feel for him. Gareth and that there taught me into it pretty much as well about going down there, and I signed for Korean, and yeah, it was like 65 miles down the road, a wee bit further down the road, but what a team.
Yeah.
What a group of lads now, like, you mean, Paddy McAllister is my hero, like, do you know what I mean? I love Paddy McAllister. I tell him all the time and that, like, so I mean, I literally still text him every now and again. That
just drop it in. He doesn't reply to you, just, you're my hero.
Because it goes back to that whole thing, is that I always wanted to be more, Johnny. I always wanted to be more than just somebody that was part of a team and that, like, I mean, I wanted to be a mainstay. I wanted to be a bigger part of a bigger cog in the wheel. So I did that, and I always thought the captain was a really prestigious role out there, and I was very fortunate there. Like, I mean, I captained Wolves youth team, I captained Bolton, Resi's team and that there. I captained Wolves Resi's team at a time or two, or even when I was so young and that there. When I went to when I came back home, captaining Distillery. When I went to Korean, Packy was a proper captain. Was a proper captain in every regard. Now there, he ran that football club from the players' perspective. Nothing ever got through Packy to get to Marty. Marty didn't have to discipline a group, didn't have to do anything with a group. Packy organised everything, so he did. So, and he had a real aura about him. Do you know when you're drawn to people, like, do you know what I mean, and you don't know what it is that draws you to them, but you think to yourself, my God, I want to be around that guy all the time. I want to be him. So he did. He led by example on the football pitch. Maybe not always. Like, do you know what I mean? He was prone to picking up the odd red card, but he was such a competitor. Like, do you know what I mean? And everything that he done, he trained properly. He worked so hard now for the team. He you know, if you were in the trenches with Packy, you were okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because, and I didn't want to let Packy down. As much as I didn't want to let Marty down, I didn't want to let Packy down first, because either one could have put you by the throat now. They're up against the wall of the dressing room. Do you know what I mean? You always knew that, and you had it in the back of your head. But, you know, you Davy O'Hare and Nets not there, who was brilliant not there. Paul Gaston and Gareth McCauley, Stuart Clanahan, Jerry Flynn, who's such a good Jerry's brilliant not there, what he's done for Lauren and out there through the recruitment and stuff, I guess. Great lad not there, and a good friend. And Packy McAllister, Tony Gorman, Stephen Beattie, Ian Basher McCush and that, like, so it is. You had Rory Hamill, Jody Tolan, and Sean Armstrong. Barry Johnson was the young lad in the team. I was the young lad in the team. I'm 25 now at this stage, and I'm the young lad in the team, because they were all 30 plus. We Barry Kern and that, like, we Flea and that, like, so it is, like, so we had such an experienced side. Going back then, you didn't have 25 players in the dressing room, because you only 3 subs back then, like, do you know what I mean? So you only allowed to name 3, and then it got up to 5, and that they're allowed to play 3. So that was the only case of it, like, do you mean? But we just a brilliant group, and that group I felt could compete, and probably didn't achieve everything it should have done. Obviously won an Irish Cup in 2003, lost it in 2004. Should have won a league title, really, like, I mean, the same year out there. They should have league 2004, whenever they were going really well, should have won a league title, like, I mean, won Northwest Cup down there and stuff, and should have probably done better in the League Cup as well. But what a group. Loved every second of being a Korean with them players. They were brilliant lads.
One thing I have to touch on, and you can't really leave Big Gaz out because of the career he's went on to have, but you two being best mates, did you ever consider that Gaz was going to go on so late in his career to have that career?
Yeah, probably not, though. Not at 26 now. You probably think there's a window of opportunity there. Gareth was a brilliant Irish League player, that you could tell. I think Gareth was almost took a while to grow into his size, because he was so tall.
Yeah.
So he was, and he almost had to fill out and grow into his body a little bit. He was always he maybe hunched over a little bit and didn't quite stand his size. You see Gareth now, he has the shoulders pinned back, and he looks even taller than what he actually is.
Specimen of a man.
He is. But do you know what he was? do you know why I hold him in the highest regard and that there, and he's a great role model for any young player. I remember when Gareth said to me, he says, he done so well in the Irish League. He got Player of the Month 2 years in a row, Player of the Month 2 months in a row, sorry. And very, very rare did the centre half win it. But he was starting to really creep up in terms of carrying himself with that confidence, really believing in himself. Scored a worldly against Portadown where he ran it out from the back and ran all the way through them and scored late on. And he was really growing into himself and that, like, when he had size, presence. He got a call up for a B international cap and he played against Scotland. And he came away from that camp and that, having been 5 days, 6 days in a professional environment, goes, I got to give this a go. Now, Gareth had a really good job at the time. Gareth was an educated boy, went to the grammar school, was a draftsman that there, did the technical drawings for double glazing windows and stuff and doors and all that stuff. Really, really good job. Earning really good coin at Korean at the time too. Like, I mean, they were paying really good money at the time. And he was prepared to give that up and that there for an opportunity to train full time and give it a go. And he had a trial at Macclesfield, and then it was actually Marty Quinn was going to lose him to maybe the Blues, or Portadown was showing a real interest in him and throwing money at Gareth, and that at least it is. And Marty Quinn picked up the phone that there to the coach and that there, like a player that he had at Cliftonville, who gave him Keith Alexander. Remember him? Keith Alexander gave him an opportunity, and Keith took him to Lincoln. And big man, what he had done from that point is just phenomenal.
Incredible. Yeah.
Phenomenal. To go from the Irish League at 26 and that there to having a 7-year association in the Premier League, to finishing up at his boyhood club, which was Rangers and that, like, to mean the way he did at 40 years of age, to pick up 83 international caps and that there, and be the highest ever goal scoring centre back and that there for Northern Ireland. For that moment that there, the Euros in 2016, when I cried my eyes out, that there, when he had when he scored that goal, like, I mean, I could not have been any prouder of him. And for my son, who now he's aspiring to try and get into Gareth's under-19 squad now, like, I mean, what a role model.
Yeah.
Because he's been in our house and around our son, and Gareth has been around Alfie and that there, for him now to try and go away and try and get into his squads and impress him to get to the next stage of the, you know, no better man. And what a career. What he has done is nothing short of phenomenal. They should make a movie about it.
They should. Or they should do something, especially in the league, because no one's ever replicated that, and no one's done it before. No, and it's about his journey and that there, from going from Lincoln that there, and you talk about doing the right things at the right times and that there. They played in the semi-final. I remember because I was in the end of season trip and that there in Liverpool with the Korean boys, and Lincoln played in that there. They got to the playoffs and that, like, so it's a home and away tie to get to the final, and they win 1-0, and Big Garth scores both goals, set pieces and that there, from set pieces, scores 1-0 in the game in the first game, scores 1-0 that there in the second game. Gets the playoff final, but by that stage that he was on the radar now of other clubs. Goal scoring centre half, having a size presence. Gets next a move to Leicester whenever they win League One. Gets into Leicester, becomes captain. That, like, you mean, now they get relegated. Yeah. But Garth has an exceptional season. That, like, you mean, obviously had to do a hell of a lot of defending in a year. You get relegated, so he get to showcase what he was about. And that there got the move to Ipswich and that, where with Jim Magilton, another Northern Ireland guy, gives him an opportunity. All right, Ipswich. Not there, gets an opportunity at Ipswich. Nigel Worthington was the manager at Leicester whenever they took him on as well. So another Northern Ireland guy gave him a leg up, but he fulfilled that. Moves on to another one at Ipswich. Obviously worked under Roy Keane in different ones. And then Roy Hodgson came to see Garth playing out there for Northern Ireland at international level, and says if he can play international football, he can play in the Premier League. And he was 32, 33 years of age. He was there for 7 years or something?
7 years, and he was a mainstream near enough every season. Incredible.
And that West Brom team as well were brilliant.
Yeah, well, exceptional, like Tony Pullis and people like that, what he'd done at the football club, and having a manager like Roy Hodgson that would go on and manage England and stuff.
Liverpool as well, he took it.
But what Garth did at international level is phenomenal, like, you mean, really, you know, to get their Euros not there at 26 years of age, not there to be playing where he was not there, and then at nearly, you know, to get their Euros final, to do what he done, that, like, you mean, to talk about a hero, like, you mean, and he just, some guy as well, and he stayed really grounded and humble throughout it, like, you mean, and again, comes from great family and great people, like, you know.
One of the big things that I noticed over your career is whenever you go to Ballymena, you still had hair.
Oh, yeah, jeez, that's, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll lighten the move. I've tried. Might as well laugh at it. But the pictures that are in there, you still have her. And what I have to ask you is, did you lose it while you were playing, or was it managing?
Probably a bit of both. I was probably Crafty Coleman, probably a bit of that time.
You
towards
should
the
be
end
a
of
ball. I have to say, you know, some people just have that ball thing where they just look good bald.
Lisa says to me all the time,
bald.
I can't imagine you with hair now, like, to me, because I've been like this for so long, I guess.
You'd be like Albert, trying to comb it all over.
Bit of sweeping, big man's feeling miserably. I like, God love him. He can't bite the bullet.
No, he can't.
I think he'll be in Turkey before he goes to the woods.
He has to commit, doesn't he?
Well, Turkey's maybe an option for him.
It is. A couple of our boys in the league have.
Yeah.
Corner,
wing backs and going.
That's it.
But listen, Ballymena was brilliant for me.
Yeah.
What a time in that there. And listen, crossing that divide from Korean to Ballymena, like to me. A wee bit from the Korean fans when I first went in that, like to me. But I kind of think in that there, Johnny, in that there, if you play with your whole heart for everybody in that there, and you play that performance in that there, they know. Wherever I was going to play, I was going to be that type of guy in that. Like, I was all in with any club. I think if you be something, you've got to fully absorb yourself in it. You've got to put your heart and soul into it. Otherwise, now you're going to sell the club short. And you should never sell anybody's football club short. You know what I mean? Fans in that there don't deserve you to be sold short in that there. They deserve your very best in that. Like, and it's the minimum they deserve. So I can always feel in that there, wherever I go, I got a level of respect from people in that, because they know, good, bad or indifferent, they knew I was giving 100% now, because I just couldn't give anything less than that. And if I did, I was a waste of time and there was no point me being there. So I was just the type I was. I was always fully committed to wherever I went. And I was the same when I went to Ballymena, and it was the longest stay I had at any one club in that there in terms of a playing style, playing one, and obviously captain the club for about 4 or 5 years of the 7 years I spent there, like, do you mean? And I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity.
Was that your most
there.
enjoyable period? Or did you really enjoy the Coleraine period where you were, because they were competing?
They were competing out there, competing in that. Do you mean? I was probably like a younger stage of my life in that, like, so it is. I had very little responsibilities. It was a good time in my life. Mm-hmm. So I did, like, do you mean, enjoying myself, socialising. I like socialising at that stage of my life and that there, my friends and stuff. I kind of missed out on that there when I was younger, because you miss out on that because you make the sacrifices with football. I probably got a wee bit older. I was 26, 27. That there came into the more social element of my life. So I did. So I was out a lot more and that, and spending a lot more time out doing things like that there. So it was good because there was a good drinking culture of the Korean boys. You know, I mean, they could drink. You know, I mean, they could drink and that. Like, I mean, like,
as you say, there's a 40-mile-an-hour rule, isn't there, when you're driving back? Somebody's driving.
It doesn't
takes a long time to get back and load beers.
Jeez, there was nearly cold crates of beer drunk by the time we got back and that. Like, I mean, with the boys, but yeah, it was. But I suppose Ballymena then, it was about again going back into that leadership role again, that like, and feeling a bigger part of a club. Yeah. Tommy Wright had signed me there. I had played with Tommy in that there at Bolton, but he came in at Bolton at the time I was there, so I knew Tommy from my playing career, and I played with him, like, you know what I mean? So again, and when he came as manager, I was actually the first signing he made in that when he went to Ballymena, so I kind of felt that he wanted me there and be a big part of it. And I felt a big part of the club from the second I walked in the door and that, like, you mean, and the people were brilliant with me. Yeah. And that club grew as I grew, and that as I went through the 7 years, obviously the stands then came about. The new stand was just getting finished when I first signed. We were still over the far side. The other stand was then built in that there, like, over the far side, not like the main Warden Street side. It was built in the time, the 3G was built by the time I had leaving the football club, and I felt the club was growing that there as I was part of it. Yeah. So then it grew around me, and I was very fortunate, like I say, to work under Tommy and that. Like, he was so professional, and you talk about standards and that, like, I mean, and Tommy is no coincidence that he went on and did what he did at St Johnstone and had such a successful career, and what he's doing with 21s now. Very, very, very professional man. And then Roy Walker came in and that, like, you mean, and I love Roy and that as well. Like, Roy, who you talk about full circle, I finished sort of playing for Roy when I was at Ballymena, like, you mean, and he was the manager at Crusaders whenever I was started there, like, you mean, and he had that aura about him then, and he was such a fine man, like, you know what I mean, such a gentleman, so clever and thought-provoking, and always sort of looking at things from a slightly different angle, like Roy was. And I learnt a lot under him too, like, you mean, but again, having the privilege of managing a football club, it was never lost on me, Johnny. It was never lost on me about, I might have to have 200 conversations with 200 people, but it's the first time I'll have the conversation with that person. Yeah. So it's about giving your time to every conversation and engaging and being genuine and showing them that the football club matters to me and that, like, you mean, and I think in that I can never understand people who don't absorb themselves in football clubs and don't spend time trying to integrate with fans. They're going to judge you a little. They're going to judge you, right? 100%. One way or another, Johnny. They judge you. They'll judge you a little less harshly in that there if you actually they feel they have a rapport to you, that they feel that you can be approachable and they can speak to you in that there. And I begrudge anybody to say I've ever turned anybody away from having a conversation. I think
that the league's too. You're not there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a community thing there, actually.
100%. Oh, yeah. That's the appeal.
It's
That's
if you're
what stops.
Pogba and you're United, you know what I mean?
These boys now, or you stand behind a bar to go and meet somebody, like, I mean, just to get an autograph signed, and you're reaching over for 30 seconds, don't even speak.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas an Irish league brand, my dad always grew up in that, saying this. My dad worked with Gary Blackledge. Now, the older generation of your who watch your podcast now, they will know Gary Blackledge for being an absolute Irish league icon. So he was a goal scorer, phenomenal, but he was just a dad's workmate and that there Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
And then on Saturday he was a hero.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I loved in that there that people paid money. I might work with you Monday to Friday, but I'm going to pay to watch you play on a Saturday. Mm-hmm. That's incredible that these people like who were just working class heroes lived amongst us and worked amongst us and that, like, I mean, and now you could approach him and speak to him and that there, and he was just a normal guy. I love that, like, I mean, and if you ever get away from that and think you're above somebody that you can't spend time or speak to them,
100%.
You're in the wrong business and you're in the wrong league and that, like, you mean, and I think, like I said, I like to think my biggest attribute is that I have time for everybody.
Yeah, I would agree.
It takes me an hour to get out of the shop and that there. I've gone for a loaf of bread and that there.
Must hate
you.
Tell me. Where have you been this day in the morning? I was talking to Susan.
And it is the case, and it is who you are, like, you mean, but I can't change who I am and that, like, you mean, that's how I was brought up and that there. Spend time for everybody. Nice to be important, more important to be nice, as my mum's always saying, like, so yeah, I've stuck by that.
In terms of you submerging yourself into a club, would Ballymena have been that one for you?
Yeah.
Did that make it harder for you to leave?
Yeah, definitely. Like, you mean, I think when you leave any football club, and it's really important you leave in the right way, and that, like, to mean, there's a right way and a long way. I think the bigger thing is that you leave. Everybody leaves at some point. It's the impact you made while you were there.
Yeah.
Did you make an impact? Are you going to be remembered? Are generations of people going to remember you now? They're the way that people talk so fondly of legends of Irish League clubs and that there. You know, every club has them. Yeah. So are you going to be held in that regard, or are you going to be instantly forgot about? And so many people are instantly forgot about when they really leave because they never really made the impact. My big thing is when you go back to the club and that there, do people
treat you well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they show you that respect and that? Like, I mean, I always like the fact is my mum and dad got so much respect. They went to every game at Ballymena and everybody spoke to my mum and dad at the games and that, like, so we did, you know, and I always liked that feel about that football club and that there, that they for the respect they have for me, they had it for my family and that there, and that was really important to me. Always remained important to me, like, so we do, how well they treated them, and I'll always have the utmost respect for them. Norman McBurney's an absolute gentleman, looked after me so well. John Taggart, absolute gentleman. Robert Coppell's an absolute gentleman. When I left the football club, they were brilliant with me. And I made the decision to leave. I had a year left on my contract, but I had become the sports development officer at the Cliff. Roy was the manager, and that, I mean, and I sat and had a conversation with Roy, basically saying as they wanted to go 3 nights a week, which was great because it was the direction they wanted to go. I couldn't fulfil the Monday because I just got a job as a sports development officer, like, through my coaching career. My son had just came along and that, like, as well, so we had done, so I kind of needed to devote more time to having a job and a sustainable income being after football. Yeah, being taking on a wee bit more, like, you mean. So it was the right time for me, like, you mean, and we shook hands and they were brilliant with me and that, like, you mean, and they basically left the door open for me to ever come back. And I was always welcome at the football club, and I continue to feel welcome. I go in as lawn manager, and there's a rivalry, obviously, like, you mean, but I like to think I'm still very well welcomed. Yeah. Bertnell, like, me, sorry, the kit man, but unbelievable. Yeah. What a guy in that there, Bertnell. You know Bert, don't you?
So sad to see Bertnell leave now, to be honest.
But
he's like he's like the wallpaper.
Yeah, he was an institution there, like, you know what I mean? Said them, but Bertnell was just brilliant. What a guy in that, like, you mean? And people like Bertnell is what made Ballymena what it was to me, like, you mean, at the time as it was you and that, like, you mean? And great guy in that there, like, you mean? And I'm grateful for him, like, you know. So, no, listen, brilliant time. I was absolutely... Couldn't say a bad word about them place and that there. How they looked after me. Broke my leg twice while playing there, like, you mean. Broke my ankle as well, like, you mean, and they looked after me brilliantly, Johnny, like, so they did.
You've had a worse time with me,
2 broken ankles, pin of iron screw in that right ankle, like, you know what I mean? But that's why I walk like this here. I don't so much walk and more.
I'm not there yet, but it might be.
It'll come to you eventually. It's always one of those, you smash into tackles, you think yourself, I'll worry about that down the line.
You
like,
can't
you know
go
what I mean?
and you're down. But you go to Carrick. It's next on the list. Now, Carrick's a very good point in your career where I believe that you're probably more so thinking about maybe the end.
Definitely.
And you're sitting going, how do I develop in this? Because obviously Carrick playing to managing comes quite quickly for you?
I had no intention of playing for Carrick, none. Like, you mean, honestly, I played for Larntech Old Boys when I retired. Like, when I finished, my best mates played for Tech. Stephen Mills was the goalkeeper, Chick Keenan was there, Niall Cerneen was there, Andy Bell was there. They were my best mates. My brother-in-law Sturdy Pike was
Cerneen played football?
I did, yeah, badly, but to be fair, he was a solid wee right back, Glenn Loughlin's and that. Like, you mean, we had a really, really good side. Diddler by Damien McLaughlin played there, Bertie Fulton played there, like, you mean, Gary Barklow. There was so many of the boys that were brilliant lads. My brother-in-law was the manager, and I thought to myself, I'll go in and retire. I always had my ambitions. When I was 11 years of age was to play for Larntech Old Boys, and I wanted to kind of tick that off and that there, and I thought, I'll go and play, no pressure, enjoy it, have fun and that, like, you mean, and sort of like, and then that'll do me. Piker, like I said, my brother-in-law was there, like, you mean, so I owed it to him to go and play for him for a year. Had the best year, Johnny. I just loved it. So competitive as a group we were. We ended up getting promoted and doing it unbelievably well. So we did. So the competitiveness and all kicked in, and we end up playing like 3 games a week for the last 6-8 weeks of a season or something. 3 games a week just to get, because we'd done so well in the cups, because we were so successful and that they're such a good side. So we did, you know what I mean, and just a joy, like, you mean, and friends for life and that, playing for them. And then the opportunity to go with Michael. Michael came up and watched a few games, and he said, I need you to come in. I said, well, I'm ready to coach that there, because I've been coaching that there away from football, because you know what Irish League was at the time, part-time. And that's another part, away from the playing side of it, and that, like, you mean, but the work life and that I've had has been just blessed with people giving me an opportunity at the right time, Johnny, like, you mean, and good people kind of looking after me, and put me on that pathway. But I played for the Tech, went to Michael. Michael said, I'll go and coach in that there, I'll do your warm-ups, passing drills and that there, build it up that way, build a wee bit of experience, great level of Irish League football. Played every game of every season that way, won Player of the Year, League Player of the Year, won everything that there that year. Had an exceptional year, but I got to coach. Yeah. And I got to experience that coaching, and I got to work with Michael Hughes and that there, who was just a legend, that, like, you mean, of what he achieved in the game and what he done. And we sort of then came in the next year, and I thought, well, I still felt pretty good body-wise and that. Like, I thought, starting to do aches and pains and that there, but I'll play. And I started off in that there. I actually picked up an injury in that there, and I never played the first 4 games of the season, and I lost pretty much all 4 games. And Michael came to me, and we were coming back from Institute. We just got beaten. That, like, to me, I was on the bus, and he said to me, "You're managing this club." And I said to him, Michael, I'm not ready for management. Like, to me, it's not on my radar. Like, he goes, "No, you're managing this club." He says, "Now there, keep your phone on. I'll phone you tomorrow." I says, because I thought he's going to quit. Like, to me, Michael's the manager. And I got a phone call the next morning. He says, the next day, because I was club captain and stuff at the time as well at the club and that, like, you mean. And I went and met a few absolute gentlemen, and Davy Hilditch and that, like, and we Charlie Johnson, who was the secretary and the chairman. So there's a Michael was in this wee green hut out beside the pitch out the back of Carrick, and went in there. And they went in and they asked my opinion on things, and I go, well, listen, obviously I don't want Michael to quit, and I'd love Michael to stay. I hope he has a rethink. I said to him, I genuinely think that we've got a good group of players here, we can have success and everything else, and blah, 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 blah. And that was it. And I said, and I walked out thinking they'd just give him a position as club captain. Yeah. And I got a phone call within half an hour. I hadn't even got down home and that there, and he basically says, right, you're going to be the manager. And I wasn't really given a choice.
You're in.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was in, and I started managing Carrick.
Do you think that's a good way?
Yeah.
Sink or swim.
Yeah,
like, you have to do it, try it. I feel like Jim Irvin at the minute. Jim's had the opportunity to go in, and I would never ever say that Jim's situation would be something that you couldn't turn down.
Yeah.
I don't think that Jim was ever in a position to say no to that. Yeah. You can't, if you want to be a manager, somebody asks you to manage regardless. Yeah. I feel like you have to, because you don't get opportunities these days.
No. They're few and far between in that, like, you mean, and I didn't think enough of myself to think I would deserve an opportunity at that level. Yeah. So I did. I thought that maybe if I
start lower,
maybe in the tech and that there, maybe help out the tech and do a bit of coaching there, and see if management was something I might have wanted to dip my toe into. I always felt I had a voice in the dressing room. I always spoke up and that there. I was never shy about putting my opinion forward. I always felt that was part of the leadership that I had and that there. So I'd kind of been comfortable leading. I was also then coaching as well, which you obviously know, Johnny, it takes you out your comfort zone. You know, you coach in so many different environments. You have to have the confidence to stand up and say what you're going to say. You have to have the confidence in what you're delivering. Otherwise, not there, it's going to come across as false, and people don't buy in. And if you don't get the buy-in, you got no chance. You know, so for me, then it was a case of like at Carrick was then okay, but can I transition from management to playing? Now, because I played for Carrick that year, I end up in that making the Northern Ireland squad. Like, to me, I played for the Tech for a year and actually got managed. I actually got a cap playing for Northern Ireland Amateur League side. And then the next season out there, like, we played the Rose Bowl game against Scotland. And then the next year I made Harry McConkey's junior international team, right? So I was always on the fringes of Northern Ireland, not like to mean fringes. I got all the caps now that bar a senior one. I never got a senior cap, but I've got like caps from under 15 right through and out there to the 23s, to an Irish League representative cap, to an Amateur League cap, to a junior international cap, but I never got a senior one. Was the only one I never got. But there's still time to get one as a manager, maybe, like, do you know what I mean?
It would tick the box anyway,
but
still count.
But yeah, so Harry McConkey was in the team and that, and I remember thinking, coming away, going, listen, I'm in the dressing room with these boys. Where'd I sit? Where'd I go? How do they take me? How do I go about doing this? And that, and
like separating yourself.
Yeah. Because you have to
be away.
You can't be in the dressing room having banter and that there the way I was, and that there, and being a captain and that, and sort of being involved in that side of things.
People.
Yeah.
That was my next question: is how did you manage to separate yourself?
Difficult. Whenever you've been. You were sitting beside me and that, and now I'm picking and choosing out there who's playing with me.
Alright, best mates, and then you're like, your job, and you're like, wanker.
But Harry McConkey was good in that there, because Harry actually said to me in that there, Johnny, he said to me, separate yourself straight away, Gary. He says, separate it straight away, put a defining that there, something that defines you and them. And he goes, see on match day, wear shirt and tie. Straight away in that there, they'll notice the difference in that there. You're not in the tracksuit, the same tracksuit as them, and you're not one of them, and that, and straight away, that'll put a marker in the sand, and that says, now I'm separate. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I done, and it was a great bit of advice in that there. And again, having good people in your life and that there, and surround yourself with good people who give you good advice. It was a great bit of advice. So straight away in that there it was. Because I remember turning up in the shirt and tie, and there was a few whiff whistles, like, you know what I mean? People going like, who's this guy? But I laid down a marker.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I laid down that marker nice and early, like, do you mean? And I found it quite. I thought I had the respect of the boys and that there. First and foremost, you have to have the respect of your teammates. I've always felt in that there, if you want to lead in that there, you got to be above reproach. You got to do your job in order for them to do theirs. If I'm going to tell you to do something, Johnny, and if I'm going to ask you to do something, I better make sure I'm doing it myself. Mm-hmm. The only way I can have a pop at you and you not come back at me is if I'm doing my job first and foremost. So you, like Roy says, do your job. Roy Keane, like, do your job and that. Like, if I do my job and that, then I'm going to have a pop at you for doing yours if you're not doing it. And like I said, Nat, like, because if you had the respect, and we had a great dressing room, like a really senior dressing room, if you go back to that time, Ryan McCann's, Dee Kearns, Aidan O'Kane's, Lego, like, Kieran Donaghy, really, really senior group. Gussie Robinson in nets and that, like, big Richard Gibson up top. Do you know what I mean? Aaron Harmond, who was a brilliant lad, like, brilliant lad who had great success with us at Carrick. We had a great lads. So we had in a great dressing room and that, in a really senior dressing room. So the transition for me wasn't bad, because they were respectful fellas, like, and great guys and that, like, and we were unlucky not to get promoted in that first. I took on the second half of the season, more or less, and that, like, a wee bit, well, about 3/4 of the season. We finished like third and that, like, I think in that there, but we'd lost the first 4 or 5 games of the season. Aye. So we were playing catch up right away and that, and we were unlucky because it was in between us and Institute and that day, who was going to get that second place and that to get promoted. But the next year, then obviously we had to have a red out because we were over budget quite considerably. Michael cut it, like, which is fair enough, but it allowed us to give a lot of good young players opportunities. We brought in Aaron Smith, Aaron Trainer, Bam Neeson, Miguel James and that, like, we brought in Kyle Cherry, brilliant kids, brilliant young players.
One thing that you did is you took in young kids.
Yeah, I wanted to get you again that there, but you weren't available because you'd gone back to Cliftonville and they wanted you to be a senior player at Cliftonville, and then you ended up going back, I think, again to Warren Point. Did you go twice?
I went to Ballymena then.
Ballymena. Mm-hmm. Try to get you and that there from Cliftonville and stuff at a time and that, like, so. But what it allowed us to do was, like, we were all in the same boat. I was quite young as a manager. I think I'm only about 37 at this time, 36, 37. So I was quite young in that, like, as a manager. I had Millsy in as my assistant manager. It was just me and him. We didn't have any other staff and that, like, but we had good senior players like Glenn Taggart, who'd been at the backbone of the club for so many years and such a stalwart at the club, and just a brilliant lad, like, so, like, and you can't go wrong if you surround yourself with good people. And we had a really good group in that there who was so hungry for success, and we did a treble in my first full season. Like, we won the league, we won the Steel and Sons first on Christmas Day, beating the Welders 4-1, which was a phenomenal performance. We then won the league in that, like, so we did, and then we backed it up with an intermediate cup in that there about 5 days later. So we did a treble in my first full season of management and that, like, and it was a step in the right direction.
If that's me, I'm going to the Premiership next year.
Yeah.
As in Premier League.
Yeah.
I'm like, who does treble for a season?
Yeah.
Somebody take me into England.
Yeah.
Give me a chance.
Well, we got in the Premier League all right, but it was the Irish Premier League in that, like, so we did. And I would say in that they're arguably on the budget that we have, because we were in no way, shape or form in that they're ready for the Premier League. We just didn't have the budget. We didn't have the infrastructure and else. I actually would say keeping that team in the Premier League on the budget that we had, and that, like, to me, was a bigger achievement than the treble was the year before. Because we had such a young group, and that, like, to me, but they all deserved the opportunity, and they all deserved it, like, to me, and they all grabbed it with both hands. You know what I mean? And they deserved to stay up, albeit one of the most dramatic days of your life. And that there was that last game of the season.
That was heart wrenching.
You were.
I was at one point in the following year. I went to Ballymena.
Yeah,
and that was
mental, wasn't it?
Oh, I hated it.
Yeah. Well, you will know the side
changed.
of it.
I mean, what a goal!
Yeah.
Man scores an overhead kick in 93rd minute.
It's sort of like a Cinderella story. Miguel's story is, like, you mean, because if you look at Miguel and that, like, you mean, obviously came over here when he moved into 5 Mile Town and was playing around out 5 Mile Town, and Blues took a gamble on him, and he played for a couple of seasons. Then he sort of went back to lower levels of playing in leagues now, and then sort of had a wee bit of a rise again with Knockbreda and that. They're knocked about and that, like, you mean, and I was always a huge admiration for Miguel, like, you mean. What a player, what a lad, what a person. His young lad D'Angelo's down at Larne now, so he is, and that, like, you mean, but just a privilege to be, just a brilliant character to have in the dressing room. Him and Kyle Cherry, the most unlikely duo, but they bounced off each other that you wouldn't believe, and that there, like, you mean, I never mentioned Conor McCloskey that you played with as well. Conor McCloskey was phenomenal for us. We got him back from Portadown, so he did, and he was at Carrick, and that they were phenomenal for us, and that they're, like, brilliant, and went on to have a really good career as well. So he did, you know, but everybody was just hungry for an opportunity. And then someone like Miguel in the twilight of his career, he had to have been about 46 whenever I signed him, like, you know, right? Because he was like, he'd been around forever.
So long.
Yeah. There's no way he wasn't 46 when I signed him. He was at least 50 whenever he retired. So it's for Crumlin Star, like, you mean, but for him to be just that moment of magic, Ben Roy, again, another brilliant signing that we bought into the football club, and that, and how we got Ben, I don't know, but I'm brilliant, like, you mean, I went golfing with him a couple of weeks ago, like, you mean, just love that lad. Digs out across, and my left back heads it back across, and Miguel Chance scores an overhead kick in the 94th minute, and we were 1-0 down in the 89th.
Yeah.
Mark Sersner, brilliant signing, a teammate for mine at Ballymena who I just love, brilliant lad, and that, like, you mean, what a career he's had at Carrick, the tail end of his career, like, he's been there 10 years. Done phenomenally well, like, you mean. So yeah, listen, people hungry for an opportunity, and everybody fighting for each other, and knowing that we didn't have much, but we had each other, and that's all we needed to keep us up, you know.
Before we move on to what would be Glentoran next,
it's an hour in itself, like.
We'll not go too long, but one of the things I have to talk about is Aaron Smith's podcast. I don't know if have you listened to it?
Incredible, yeah.
He talks about the period that he had with you.
Yeah.
And obviously the admiration that he has for you, for how you've managed to deal with his situation.
Yeah.
How was it dealing with that?
I again, it goes back to that their whole nature of who I am as a person. I care about the people I work with. Like, I mean, I care about my players and that. I don't mean that all the people don't care about the players, but I probably care a wee bit too much at times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I seen in that, like, I mean, I seen the good person in Aaron, like, I mean, Arzo's just such a good character, like, I mean, he doesn't mean to want to let you down. He would do anything that to try not let you down, but he obviously had wee demons and stuff at the time and that, like, I mean, and he was prone to going off the rails and that, like, a little bit. Again, listen, many factors as to why that is. That's up to Aaron to divulge that why he would be like the way he is. But he was such a good person, and he cared so much, and he tried so hard for you, you know what I mean? And you just wanted the best for him. You always feel in that there, if he had a person out there in his life at a younger age and out there that would mentor him and keep an arm around him and put the arm around him and keep him away from all the things in his life, that he could have gone on to go to England and be phenomenal. Mm-hmm. He never had that, like, you mean, probably that person that was keeping away from things, like, you mean, he probably didn't have that in his life at a period of time. So whenever he did mess up and that there, and he obviously turned up and he wasn't in any real great nick and that, like, you mean, and he obviously tried to hide it from me and stuff, I guess, and then it comes out in the wash and the club did want to sack him. They did come to me and said he's sacked, and I says, no, we're not sacking him. You know, I mean, I'll get so much more out of him and that there if I give him a second chance than we ever will if we sack him. If we sack him, where does he go? Yeah. What does he do? Like, where does he go from here and that there? Think about the person, think about what he needs. And I says, well, you put your neck on the line sometimes and that there, because you go back to that belief in people and that there and seeing the good in them. I seen nothing but good in Aaron and that, like, you mean, and he repaid me tenfold for what I done for him and that there. What he gave me was 10 times more than what I could ever give him. I just gave him another opportunity, and at that stage and that there, he repaid that because his performances and that there from that point onwards, it came to the point to start next year. I did make him captain when Aaron Harmon went out with a knee injury and made Dorsal captain because of what he done in the time after that. So it is, and there was people like Jody Lynch and that was there too, and Jody's come out and spoke about his problems and stuff, and Aaron Trainers came out and talked about his gambling addiction that there, like, you mean, and stuff like this. But they were just such good people. It doesn't make them bad people because they've got elements or things in that there they struggle with and that there. It just makes them human beings. Yeah. We all struggle with different things in that there. But with me and with Jody and that there, I kind of felt I could have done more for Jody. I didn't realise it was bad as what it was with Jody about his drinking and that there at that time and how bad it was. And if I had it done, I would have tried to do more to help and support him, like, you mean. But at that stage, you need to want help as well, you know. And I'm so pleased to see him in such a good place for his young family. He's got about 400 kids. That, like, so he does. You know,
and he's a fantastic drunk trick.
He does. Yeah.
He'll know if he watches it. Everyone's going to know what it is.
Incredible, like, you know what I mean? He's a very, very blessed boy. So he is, like, but he's but again, is like, if you could have done more to help and support these boys, I would have done that there. And like I said, Norm repaid me and then some and that, like, you mean. And listen, it's great to see him in such a good place, going so well, and again, and doing well for himself and that, like, me now. It really is good, and it's rewarding that there, because, like I said, everybody deserves a chance, like, you know. So
it kind of sums up you as a person, I think, because you always look at the bigger picture with people.
Well, the human being
regardless
behind
of the
player
situation that people are in.
Yeah. There's a person behind the player, like, you mean, and I just want him to perform the best he can. Yeah. It's me supporting him and me helping him. Does that make him play better? I believe it does. If me going the extra mile for them and out there and going out my way to help and support them, then it's not going the extra mile. It's just doing what any human being should do for another human being, is try to support them, try to help them in that there first and foremost.
As much as I love to build people up in the podcast, Kaz, we have to knock you back down because you went to Glentoran. And what a shit show that must have been. Yeah. Sorry to say.
No,
like, I know Glentoran's a fantastic club, but there's a lot of people who've been on. Like Ian Clark was on very recently talking about the situations. He was a general manager at the time, and he expressed continuously within that podcast how he felt like you were like a sacrificial goat. You know, if you were brought in, there's no money at the club, you were told to do miracles with nothing. It must have been so different for you.
I think in that there, do you know what's funny, because Johnny, because after we ended, like, you mean, I was only there about 18 months and that there, to shy of 2 years and that, like, you mean, and you want to come out and that there, and I was hell bent on trying to burn that club to the ground for what they'd done, like, you mean, on me, in terms of how I was treated and how I was, like, you know, how I was at the end of it. But Millsy and that there again, and you surround yourself with people that keep you right and that there. If you've got good people in your life, like I said, I keep on going back to that there. It's so important to me. Stephen Mills has always been a good person in my life and that there, and he says, Gary, you're just going to come across as bitter, and it's just going to look like sour grapes, and it's not going to come out in that there how it actually was. So it was, like, you mean, what you're better doing is it'll come out in the wash. It'll come out eventually, like, you mean, and you look at the amount of people that turned it down there afterwards. The results didn't really improve massively in that there until Ali Purr came in and invested the money. Unfortunately, in that there, whenever I was manager of the Glens, I should have asked more questions, Johnny. I was naive on my part. I was asked to apply for the job first and foremost by one of the directors at the club, because I didn't know if after I left Carrick and off my own devices, I kind of felt it was time for me. The club was pulling in one way. I felt the boys deserved a bit more, and I had to come away for the good of them. So I did, you know what I mean? And I came away from it, and I had no real intention of going back into management. Got reached out by somebody from the Glens and that there asked me to apply for the job, and I'm a really competitive person, Johnny. So once I sort of thought, okay, I'll put in and see what it goes not there. And once I did the first interview, that was it. I was competitive. I wanted it, like, do you know what I mean? Because I'm just competitive. At the time, the budget that they were talking about having was like 5 times what we had at Carrick. 5 times, and that their bigger budget. So I kind of know what I did with Carrick. I felt that there on that budget it would have been healthy. I was in the job about a month and that there, and the chairman came to me and told me there was 100 grand came off that wage bill. So it did now 5 times that would have competed with the bigger clubs and that there, the top 6. 100 grand coming off that there, you're not competing, like, to me, Johnny. And there was not only that there, 100 grand had to go off the wage bill. So then you were losing all your big characters, like, to me, like Stevie McIlaurin was injured when I got there, done a cruise ship. Stevie's somebody I have a lot of respect for, like, to me. I loved how he played the game. I loved how tenacious he was. He was a leader in a lot of regard. I had no money to offer Stevie to get him to stay and sign a new contract, and he was coming off the back of a cruise ship.
I wouldn't say a club legend, but he's been there He's a captain. He's been there for a long time.
He's won trophies. He's
one
got
of my
success.
best mates, and he was fantastic playing against him.
Brilliant lad.
He hated it. Do you know what I mean?
I couldn't wait to get to work with someone like Mackers and that there because of what I knew about him and how I played against him. So I knew how competitive he was and what he was, but I wasn't in a position to offer Mackers a contract. I think they ended up offering him buttons on what he was actually on to try and get him to sign a new contract and that there, and he was never going to sign it. People like Jay McGee and that done ever so well for me and that there. He's one of the ones during that period and that there until we could make the changes that I came in that there. They were 11th in the table. They'd lost 8 games on the bounce. The Glens, this is the Glens, we're 11th in the table, 8th from the bounce, 8 games in a row they'd lost. So there's a Roy that had been taken in that away internship after Alan Kernahan. You're coming into like end of September, start of November, like to me. So they're quite a bit into the season now and they're miles behind. And the chairman comes to me. Now I went in and they asked, I took the job on the first. I agreed to take a job on the Thursday. And they said, do you want to take training that night? Because we play the Blues on the Saturday. And I said, yeah, well, I'll take the game. Because that's just me, like, do you mean? I wanted to, I'll take it, yeah. We'll go, like, do you mean, like, and we got beat 2-1 in extra time and that there, so at injury time. Sorry, Jimmy Gallagher scored a header and that there, but we won 1 down, battled back to 1 each, much better in the second half. Jimmy scored a header really late on that, they lose 2-1, but they clapped us off the park. We drew the next game and won the next 3. They hadn't won a game and they hadn't won 3 games in a row all season. Yeah. And the chairman comes to me after 3 wins and says, "Not there. Oh, by the way, Gary, there's $100,000 coming off the wage bill if we don't get European football this year." This is the team that was sitting 11th in the table. Yeah. Now we've bounced to like 7th now. Like, do you know what I mean? He said to them, but we're 11th in the table. Well, what makes you thinking that we're in any position to challenge for Europe? Like, do you know what I mean? $100,000 coming off the wage bill because they had won a cup in 2015 and that, like, do you mean? And then they split the prize money over the next 2 years and the money had gone. It just gone. And sports clubs weren't flushing it, putting it into the board because they felt there was a mismanagement. There was a breakdown of communication between the board and that there and the fans. And it was always like, wee bit like fur coat, no knickers, keep up pretense. It seemed to be signing players. And it is like, but that's what it is. Seemed to be competing with the Blues. Well, we can't compete with the Blues because we're $500,000 behind them in terms of budget. Mm-hmm. We're offering boys £60 a week. Our marquee signing was £110 a week. Was John McGuigan or something like that there? Sorry if I declared John's wages. Yeah. So it did, like, you mean, but John McGuigan that there was already like a big signing for us.
But when you consider the massive club that Glentoran is, you're thinking the wages are £400, £500, £600, £700 a week.
Well, that's what you're in a position to do. But you know, if your wage bill now gets cut so drastically, well, I would say in that there, like, you mean, then with the wage bill getting cut, 85% of the wage was gone. Like, you mean, the wage bill was gone right when they cut it because you had big players in that there, like an Elliot Morris, you had a Moko in that there, Marcus Kane, you had a Callum Burney in that there, you had a Willie Garrett, you had a Curtis Allen. But 5 players in that there count at 85% of your actual budget, entire budget. But there's only 5 players. They needed another 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players around them to support them. But we did no budget because 15% of the budget had to make up a squad of 15 to 20 players.
You're either looking to cut or get rid of people to get a budget to work with people, or you're
no money to bring in players. Like, we got in Robbie McDade and that there, like, you mean, because the GCT supporters trust not that they paid Robbie and that they're separate. So he did they had done a deal for Nacho Novo before I had signed for the club.
That's right.
So Nacho was there, like Jimmy says, and Nacho was on very, very big money in comparison to everybody else and that, like, you mean, but had a deal in his contract that he didn't travel with the team, and he travelled his own way to games and that there. He left straight after games. He never sat in the dressing room with the boys, sat in his car in the car park, came out and trained. Listen, a lot could come out in the wash about it. I have no ill feeling towards Nacho Novo at all. By the way, like, you mean, obviously what he did at Rangers, phenomenal what career he had, but he was at the tail end of his career and that there, and he came to the Glens and he was literally getting picked up and going to do supporters clubs straight after games and stuff. I guess he never bonded with the players, never linked with the players, was never there, and then done a hamstring, went away to Glasgow and that. They'd never seen him for like weeks on end and that there, then come back, say he was fit, done a hamstring again, away he was again. So there's not there. So things like that there are beyond your control a little bit.
How frustrating is that as a manager to be like, I didn't want this guy and he's taking up X, Y and Z as my budget and he's pretending. He could be pretending. Like, how do you know when somebody's injured?
Listen,
to Glasgow here.
Listen, I don't know the
not the
ins and
champion.
outs
I'm not
of that.
champion.
Yeah,
It's just
no,
frustration. Like if it was me, I'd be like, this guy's fucking taking me on. And
well, it was
nothing to do.
difficult. Like, I mean, he was never difficult to manage. He was always respectful, always talked, and everything else. And that, like, Jimmy said to him, but he just wasn't integrated into the group.
Yeah.
So he wasn't, like, I mean, he did his own thing, and we were over here. Like, you know what I mean? And it was difficult to manage that there because I'm all about the togetherness.
Yeah.
I'm all about, but it's hard not there whenever. And it's not even Nacho's fault because he's been sold something and told what he can do in that there, and it's set in stone before I've gone in there, and it's hard to change that there whenever he sort of thinks, oh no, it's part of my contract. I got to show on, but it was incredibly difficult. But the demands at Glentoran are massive, and it should be massive demands at Glentoran. They should be up there competing out there. They do have a massive fan base. They are passionate about their football club. There's brilliant people that work for the football club. He says, but at the same time, and out there, whenever you're getting very little support and out there, like, you know what I mean, and you've got no budget. Yeah, and you know what? It was always keep up pretense, and that, like, I mean, try to be seen to be signing people. Are we actually trying to sign him, or am I actually wasting this lad's time and my own time trying to pretend to be signing him?
What's the point? Like?
No, because we're looking for our fans. I said, well, be honest with your fans.
Yeah.
Go and be honest with the people now who support your club and put their money into your football club, who pay to come in for your turnstiles. Be honest with them. I'll be honest with them. I'll go and tell them and that there, guys, we don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. TSB and that there are going to close the ground. They've locked the gates now 4 times on us. I got nowhere to train. I've used 12 different facilities in that there in 18 months. He says, I'm training down at the Cliff in Larne.
You were doing the Cook as rugby club?
We got put out because Linfield's kids and academy were paying more money than what we would. We never paid our bill. So Cook Rugby Club got taken over now there by Linfield Youth. So it is because they needed facilities. There wasn't a 3G pitch to be had in the country because everybody had booked them all up. We got to train at Bangor at 9:30 on a Monday and a Wednesday night. Or we had to go to Larne and that there and train that there because I worked as a sports event officer at the Cliff and Larne, and we would have got half a pitch for the first half hour while we were there and the full pitch and that there for an hour. That was the only facilities we could get in the country, and I was getting on the cheap and that there from my work. And that, like, you mean, and the amount of work I had to put on in the Cliff and that to do in order to get that, like, you know what I mean, by the way as well. I was picking the gear up and that there for training every night. So I was driving from my work, Townsend Street for Community Sports Network. I was driving over to the Oval to pick the gear and that there to go back to wherever we were training, which was varying on any given night. So it was let down with numerous training facilities. We promised we'd get here, never materialised. Up at Boys Model and that there before they've relayed the new Boys Model, the pitch was just rubber crub and the pitch was tiny. So it's like, how does this relate to the Oval? How do you work on game-related practice? We only had half a pitch in that there because the kids hired $1 pitch because we were basically jockeying on the kids' money in that there, like, paying the pitch. That was the reality of what you faced, and nobody knew that, like, you mean? And I've always felt that, like, you mean, is if I'd have said that at the time, it just looks like sour grapes and excuses. I wasn't trying to make excuses. I was just trying to be honest with people. Yeah. If you're honest with people, I think they accept it. They may not like it, but they accept it. Yeah. It's whenever you try to keep up pretenses and that, like, you mean? But again, is maybe there afterwards, that period before Ali Power came in and that there and the limited success, it kind of showed why other managers came in and turned the job down. You know, loads of people turned the job down. So yeah, because they obviously were aware of the circumstances and that, like, you mean? And I wish I'd asked more questions. I don't know that you can ever turn down an opportunity like Glentoran Football Club. I know it's a club I massively respect. I think Decky's done a great job with them and that there. They've got Tim McCann out there, like, you know, Timmy really well. So he did, like, you mean, it's a club in that there that demands and expects success, and it should get success. So we'll do, like, you mean, he said to him, but at the same time, you know what I mean, I was aware of the circumstances as to when I was the manager, and it was incredibly testing. And for somebody that cares so much and wants to do so well in that, like, I mean, for them as much as I do for me, so we're doing as much as I do for the players and everyone else. It was an incredibly frustrating period of my life, like, you know what I mean. And I came away with that going, yeah, management, nah, no thanks.
Well, I was about to ask you the question: is would that have been your most testing time, and how close did you come to potentially just being like, I'm out, I'm done?
Yeah, very, very close in that there. Whenever you got to tell your family to stay away from games and that there, like, you mean, and because of the abuse, because my son's shouting at people in the stands because they're giving me abuse. So we're doing Lisa's there coming, Alfie turned around, some guy was shouting, hearing this and hearing that, like, you mean, he goes, I think Alfie turned around and goes, well, you can't do any better, like, you know what I mean? He says, stop shouting at him. And I think myself at that point, you got to remove him from that because he should be seeing and hearing things like that. No. When it becomes almost toxic like that there, like, you mean, then that's when you feel like, I'm not a quitter. You
obviously stuck it out because of your own self-motivation there, no?
Well, we were 5th in the league. Johnny, like, you mean, as well. We were only a handful of points off the top 3. wasn't like we were going shite, not like, and we were sitting in the bottom of the table. We were 11th where I took over.
Yeah.
So when they sacked me, they kind of basically said, "Oh, we're not seeing progress." I says, "Well, you were 11th when I took over, and we're 5th now, and we're in the quarterfinal of the Irish Cup." He says, "Nah, when I took over, and he was in no cups not there." And was the football, as we started the season really well, Johnny, and we're really competitive. And then John McGuigan done his knee, so he did a cartilage operation out there that should have been done within two weeks of him actually doing the injury. He could have been back within 68 weeks. Took them 4.5 months out there for somebody to pay for the operation for John to get his knee done. And John had came back at that time flying. Him and Curtis were going really well. We started the season really promising that. We were up sitting top 3 most of the whole time I was there, not there in my second season. We dropped down a little bit, a few points, but we missed. John done that. Callum Burney done a groin in that, so we were missing Callum. I think Curtis not there went out with a hamstring injury not there, so we lost a goal threat in the top end of the park and nobody to replace him with because we had no strength or depth in the squad. We were paying kids 60 quid a week to come to play for Glentoran. Dylan Davidson coming back from England and that, and we were paying them buttons. We were paying everybody buttons. Conal, I can't think of his surname right now. We Skippy and that, who played for us. Again, a look at Tiernan O'Connor, McNichol.
Yeah, I remember him.
Who came in that there, Tiernan that there, came to us in that there again, that so it is, on buttons. We were taking players in that there that weren't getting playing for their teams, and we were playing them in Glentoran's first team. And that was the reality, we tried Sterling and that they're coming back from England again. We were putting them on buttons, but they were young and they had no experience, but they were kids. And if you'd have given them a bit of time and that there, they may or may not have came good. Hard at a club of Glentoran that there with expectations so high.
Yeah.
So again, listen, should ask more questions, but it is what it is. Not there, I'm stronger and more resilient for it, but it definitely dented me, it knocked my confidence to a certain degree in that there in terms of that I wanted them manage again, that there, not for them circumstances. I certainly would have asked more questions the next time whenever it came about.
Well, it took you 3 interims
yeah.
decide. So one of the biggest things is obviously you're now the manager of Larne.
Yeah.
Rightly so. I mean, you've been there for 8-9 years. We were there together at a period of time. You were coaching, you were taking sessions, you were in the community, you were doing meal drives, we were handing out food over COVID, we were doing everything under the sun, to be honest. But it's now nice to see you in a position where you're now being successful. But it took a time. I think you started in 24 as an interim.
Yeah.
And it's happened 3 times.
Yeah. Well, you pay your due sometimes in football, Johnny. I was very, very lucky in that whenever I left the Glens within a couple of days and I was offered a position within Larne to come in and coach the kids because I was always the Larne 2010 volunteer coach.
Yeah.
So I was volunteering even when I managed the Glens, even when I managed Carrick and that there, I was still the 2010 because it was my son's team. So it was not and I absolutely adored being their coach. Not there, I love getting back to grassroots football where it's just about football and it's about the kids and everything else, and it's my son and that. I reluctantly I didn't ever want to coach my son, but I remember going down the first night. There's 60 kids and that there. It's a bit carnage and that. And Lisa turns to me and goes, "Are you seriously going to stand and watch everybody else try and coach?" Do you know what I mean? And you coach everybody else's kids and that there. You're not going to coach your own. And I got
coerced. You can't say no to them.
No, Jesus,
okay.
she very much not there made me. She never gave me an option, put it that way. Why can you, if you've got to do it for your own? I was always worried about the relationship I have in that there with Alfie as a result of being his coach and that there, because I was so demanding of him. I expected so much from him, even from an early age and that there. I tried to make it fun for all the kids. I was a lot more patient with everybody else's kids than I was my own, but I think that's just the way it is. And my expectation of his was so much greater than anybody else, I never wanted to be him being accused of he only got what he got because I was the coach. Mm-hmm. He got what he got because he was the best. Do you know what I mean? And I was always kind of making sure that he was above the curve. Do you know what I mean? And he justified his position that there, and it wasn't because of who I was or my role within it, because you do see it, do you know what I mean? A little bit of favoritism towards that, do you mean? But I was the opposite. I was probably harder on Alfie for that reason, because I didn't ever want that being labelled at him and pointed at him, do you mean? But I used to actually go in games and that there, and I'd take Alfie off and that there, and he go, "Why am I coming off again? I'm always taking off." Until the point where parents goes, "For God's sake, will you keep Alfie on? He makes us competitive." Do you know what I mean? And I'm thinking that whenever that happened and that there, going, okay, well that's why.
Realizations hit in. They needed him.
Yeah. But then, like I said, is because Kenny gave me the opportunity. Kenny then and Niall Kearney asked me to come in and coach the coaches at the youth set up and that. And get involved with the youth and I was now transitioned into the club as it went more full time into the CEO position. I ended up being the director of youth. So it did, like, which meant I was overseeing a much bigger. I was basically under 4s to like the 20s, and that, like, you were doing the whole thing.
And that was before it split into YDP, PDP.
Yeah. Before we, my biggest compliment is whenever I walked away from it, they took on 8 full-time members of staff, and that's
you're like, could have just given me the 40 or 50 grand later.
Yeah. I combine all the wages and I'll do all the jobs. Like, I was doing it, like, but I, do you know what? I was probably killing myself trying. Like, I literally was working for the football club from 8 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, and I never stopped that. Like, the phone calls and that, they're dealing with parents, dealing with complaints, dealing with people and that they're needing different things and that there, and it was stretched a lot of different ways. And I think it got to the point that there where I had to go to Kenny and says, listen, Kenny, I'm going to be in an early grave here the way I'm going. I've been doing it for 4 years. And I was battling through COVID and everything else and trying to keep the kids engaged and staying at it while always progressing Alfie and the wee team of 10s and that there. I always wanted to keep my foot with them because I felt there was genuine potential in that there wee group of 2010s. Incredible potential, like, so it did so, and it's transpired as it has and that. And I suppose not that then transitioning into the club and that then I went to Kenny, listen, I'm being stretched so thin. I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I'm doing this, and this, and I can't continue to do it. I'm literally opening up and closing up Inver. I'm literally there, first person there in the morning, last person at night. And something's got to give in that, like, and it either has to be the kids that gives or the first team that gives. Yeah. And whatever you decide, not, or maybe I just got to decide to do something completely different for the good of my family, for Lisa, for Alfie. So it was because there was no real work-life balance. The balance that I was allowed was because Alfie was just always with me. So when I went down to train whatever team I was training on any given night, which was pretty much every night of the week, I just take Alfie with me, and he'd either kick about beside the pitch or just throw him in. That they were the older boys. So he was getting training with the 16-year-olds when he was
training with us at one stage.
Pretty much.
Extra sessions and stuff over COVID with us.
And he did in that there, the COVID stuff and that there, and he'd come in, he'd serve and he'd bang balls in. And I used to say in that there to him, if you want Johnny to respect you in that there, and you got to give him a good serve. So if you don't give him a good serve, he'll tell you, and I'll make sure he tells you in that there. So make sure you punch it in, make sure you do it. And he loved it.
Oh.
And it just accelerated his learning so much, and that there, being around you boys and seeing how you conduct yourself and how you play and stuff. But again, because I was with him so much, Lisa balanced it out a little bit like that. There will at least each with Alfie. So it is not there. When he came in at 10 o'clock at night and he had school the next morning, he was busted because he's done 4 sessions that day. Different situation, like, you know what I mean? But yeah, I got the balance with him and spent so much time with him and that, which was great for our relationship. Not always, because we did clash and that over football again, as I was so demanding from him and that, and you're always worried that it might affect your relationship with your son and that, because of football, and there was definitely times I crossed the line, definitely, I recognise that, and I wish I could take it back, do you know what I mean? But I hope in that there, and like my own father in that there in 10, 15 years time, if he is sitting in a position where he turns around and goes, I'm glad you did that for me, Dad.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm glad you pushed me to be better. I'm glad you demanded more from me.
The career he's realised it came from those wee extra sessions.
Yeah. The demands. Nobody's going to demand more from him than I did. And that, I always feel that if I could prepare you for life, life's tough, son. Life is ruthless. Football's ruthless. It's horrible at times, as you know. Injuries and setbacks. Resilience is huge. And human beings, resilience needs to be in every walk of life.
Yeah.
So you do, but in football more so than most. And that, young people come away from the game disillusioned and they don't have the resilience to kind of keep going. The kids that keep going out there, the kids that get the success and that, and when he hits that brick wall, the resilience that he'll have and that there will be in him and that there to keep going, you know what I mean? And I hope anyway.
Last thing that I have to touch on. 25-26 season, right? Played 77 games since you've been in charge. You've won 44, drew 16, lost 17, 125 goals for, 61 against. Consistent.
Yeah.
Right? League champions, NIFL Manager of the Year, Ulster Manager of the Year, Northern Ireland Football Writers Manager of the Year, and then your best mate hands you the trophy, coming out of a helicopter.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Yeah. That was a fairy tale that last day of the season. That there, the rewards are things not there, like Johnny, like Belfast Telegraph one as well, by the way, so it did, because that was a big one as well. The Belfast Telegraph.
They don't count.
That was a big one because
they charge people from.
But But yeah, do you know what? Like, I mean, that was a dream in that there. Like, you after the Glentoran result in that there, the way sort of it transpired, I wasn't overlooking Dungannon in any way, shape or form, but you kind of knew that they had a bigger thing at play in that there with the Irish Cup coming up. I kind of knew in that there whenever.
Now they didn't take the team out.
No. They
played
the team. Yeah, they did. Yeah. No, and I'm glad they did in that there because it didn't stop our boys becoming complacent in any way, shape or form. I think, Johnny, whenever we got to the cliff and that, like, I mean, we obviously do our meetings and that there normally like about two hours before the game. So as we go in and have a meeting and that, like, I mean, about game, the final we get to game plans. The boys are sitting in there 20 minutes before they're due to be in there. They're in there, like, I mean, and Mick comes to me and goes, guys, the boys are in there. He says, now, do they want to go now? And I go, right, let's go. So I did, like, I mean, that they were there. Yeah, and I knew in that there for that minute they were on it, like, I mean, oh my God, were they on it? Like, I mean, they were ruthless on the day, 8-0, last game of the season, that, like, I mean, they just had it, they had that, they were just not letting it go, like, I mean.
Onslaught.
Yeah.
I actually worried when I was watching it, I was like, I actually fear for Dungannon going to the cup final.
Do you know what?
I was like, holy fuck.
Do you know, I was so impressed with him in the cup final too, Johnny.
Yes,
I was so pleased. Ronnie's a brilliant coach.
Yes.
They're a brilliant group in that. They're down at Dungannon, and it wasn't about them that day. No. It just wasn't about them. It was about us and about what we wanted to achieve and everything else in that there. And listen, Dungannon's probably the one team I respect the most out of the whole league in that there because of the people involved in it and how they conduct themselves and how they are as a football club. I just love them. So I do. I think they're a great group in that. And Rob, different class of a guy, like, and coach, brilliant coach. But for us now, it was about us that day, like, I mean, it was about what we wanted to achieve and about how hard we had fought now, like, I mean, and the resilience we showed after the wee wobble in February time and that there, we lost a couple of games and people thought, oh, Lawrence wobbled, Corian's going to finish 16th chain, Glens are on their tails and everything else. We won the next 5 and that there in the month of March. Mm-hmm. We showed the resilience and that there in April and that there to go to the Oval and get a result and that, like, I mean, and then the last day of the season, like, 5:30 kick out, sun splitting rocks. We win 8-0 and that, like, I mean, I was able to enjoy it, like, I mean, the last half hour of the game and that there, it was just pure reflecting on the whole season and that there, thinking about my dad.
You just take your time.
Thinking about my dad and that there, my mum was sat behind me, my sister's behind me, my brother's behind me, my whole family's behind me and that there. I know pretty much everybody in the ground. Lisa's sitting up in the balcony, Alfie's kind of standing in the wings and that there, he's in the changing room with us and that there, Johnny, and perfect. And then, like I said, your best mate arrives in the helicopter. I didn't even know the helicopter was coming, you know, either. I didn't know anything about the helicopter, not there, but your best mate arrives and he comes out of a helicopter holding the Gibson Cup and yanks off. Yeah.
You can get them. You can get them out.
Yeah,
take a drink.
It was kind of one of the moments not there. Whenever you kind of you go through the hardship of what we did at the Glens and everything else, the great success, the great team we had at Carrick. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of feeling like that there. I don't know if redemption's the right word, not there, but you feel like yeah.
Class though, the thing, like, because we like George's podcast going to come out this week. So he explains the whole thing behind the logistics of why they done it. Yeah. It's like, regardless of the logistics of whether you think it's easier for you to get a fucking helicopter to go to Coleraine or Larne, it's unbelievable. Yeah. And then it was, as I say, the whole story around the fact that it was Millsy, he's managed to get our best mates from his growing up, full circle moment. It's cherry on the cake, like.
Really was not there. Do you know what's funny, Johnny? Like, I mean, we were in the dressing room afterwards, not there, while they're setting up the stage, and I come out and Jared's there, and Sophie and all the girls not there from Niffle are there. Regan and that, like, I mean, Shay Kennedy. I think, where the hell's Millsy? Because Millsy spoke to me earlier that day, and like, I mean, I knew he was probably sitting at Ballymena, like, I mean, and I knew he would go one way or the other. 3-0 at half time, I think, so the wee man's bound to be coming down to Larne, like, I mean, he's bound to be coming over Shane's Hill. He's bound to be in that. When I wasn't there at the end, I was wondering what was going on. And then they set up the stage and stuff. I said, maybe he's in the background doing stuff and that, because he never likes to be front and centre. He's always in the background, Millsy. But I go in the dressing room, boys are going mad now. Like, I mean, I thought myself, while they're setting up a stage, I love to go and see my mum because she was sat directly behind me. So every time we scored, I sort of glanced up at her, not there, because she was up the high.
Another one? She glanced at her a lot.
Yeah, she was definitely nervous before the game and that. Like, I mean, the wee bit of anxiety and that there. She was nervous for me and for us and that. Like, I mean, and I kept on glancing up at her to reassure her and that. Like, I mean, and I thought myself, I love to see my mum. I love to go and see her, like, I mean, but you know what it's like when you come out of Inver. So I come out of the change rooms, I'm looking up and that there, my mum's right behind the dugout and that there, which is the start of the stand. But all the terracings packed and that the pace is bong, you can't squeeze another person in. I'm thinking to myself, if I run up and I go through the car park and I come down the back and that there, will I get to see her? Can I see her? Can I get past people? It's going to take me an hour to get up and out there to see with me, like to me 2 hours to get to see my mum, to go and see her and that, like, you mean? And I thought to myself, I'd love to see my mum and that there, because I knew she'd be thinking about my dad in that moment too, again, like that. So just as I went to go, I thought, oh, well, dude, like, I mean, the helicopter comes in over the bleach screen end. So it comes in and that, like, you mean, and everybody's like this with a camera phone.
Yeah.
And Johnny, I walked from there up the steps, past everybody in the terracing, past everybody in that row, and tapped my mum on the shoulder and that there and give her a big hug.
Class.
And a girl, Sarah Winslow, and that, like, I mean, who works for Dungannon Football Club, she was recording that as well. Like, I mean, obviously just because it was such a big moment that there with the helicopter and else, and she actually had recorded me coming into the stand and hugging my mum, and nobody sees me, Johnny. It was lovely, like, I mean, it was just because everybody was just transecting this helicopter coming in. It was such a big moment. I was allowed to go straight up there.
Time stands still, isn't there enough? You're just like,
it was incredible, mate. I'd seen it coming. I was going, oh my God, like, you know, like that's like, Scotland, they obviously helicopter Sundays and stuff, like a helicopter Saturdays in Inver Park, like, you mean, but it allowed me to get up and see my mum, give her a big hug, give my mum a big hug, and out there, my brother was there, like, you mean, and then my wee niece and out there, Caitlin was there, and then I come back down again out there, and I'm back down the pitch now, and nobody really stopped me in that, like, you mean, so it was just kind of even that moment, just made it perfect. Millsy brings it down. Alfie's on the pitch to celebrate.
Like Tom Cruise flying at sailor. He's probably buzzing.
we give him some stick because that helmet was massive. Like, I mean, Millsy's not a big guy, like, but that helmet, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it was huge. We give him a wee bit of stick about it. But then Alfie to come on the pitch afterwards and celebrate it with me, and because he played three times for us over the course of the season. He made his debut. He was only 15 in that, like, you mean? And honestly, he so pushed me, and that was so hard to try and get him involved in games. So it is good for us now by him going to Crystal Palace now, like, you mean, so it was good for us to get him on the pitch and that as well. But it's good for his experiences being around the boys and being around that group of
winning
exceptional people. To feel what that feels like in a dressing room, there's literally not a better feeling in the world. Like, I mean, of people who get what they deserve, who work so hard and put so much into it and are so dedicated to what they do to get the success, and that there's just incredible.
The last thing we want to touch on is, like, as we spoke about at the start, you have 4 weeks off now.
Yeah.
You're back already. Pre-season, you're in Stranraer at the weekend. You're planning for European football here. It's all very quickly back in.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters but football again.
Yeah. It's funny, Johnny, because of off the back of the success we had last year, you then have to do the awards things and stuff like this. They're all part and parcel, and I get it is part and parcel of it, like, you mean. And do you know what I'm so grateful for every award out there that anybody felt out I deserved to get, or rightly or wrongly I got, like, do you know what I mean? So did, but got them awards not there, but I almost felt like out there you're getting the same reward for the same success. Do you know what I mean? I think one trophy's enough. Do you know what I mean? I got it because my dad.
Think about the many conversations you've had.
But
different ones.
I can hear my dad saying, "You're absolutely ripping the arse out of it now, son." Like, do you mean, wrap ass up and that, like, do you mean, you're taking the piss. So he is with all these awards and that, like, do you mean, I can almost hear him saying it, right, get the head back on and get back to work and that, like, do you mean, and he may not be here, but always with me, like, do you mean. So so you kind of get these rewards and that, but your season drags out. So it does, because it doesn't really feel like the season's finished until that award goes and that, like, I mean, the awards are done. And then Alfie was doing his GCSEs, Lisa was working and that, like, to me, so I was in every day and that there for about 2 weeks while everybody was off, just planning and preparing and that, like, to me, because you're local as well. Everybody wants access to the trophy, so I've been around every primary school, every shop up and down that main street, everybody who's played a part in that there and getting us success in that there. I've wanted to kind of go and thank them for what they've done for us. It doesn't happen without that there, their support and that. Like, I mean, the people mean so much to the club and that there, and the club means so much to the people, so it goes hand in hand. And you want to show their appreciation to these people and that there, and I've tried my best to get around absolutely everybody. A few more people still to do and that, like, you mean, and then you got a wee break. We got a week off and that there, went to Lanzarote, the 3 of us and that, like, you mean, it was lovely, it was great, and then you're back and at it, like, you know what I mean.
Well, went golfing. That card oil on.
Went golfing with a bunch of wrong uns, like, so we did. There was 12 of us went golfing out there, got a couple of days week off in the Cala with my mates, so it is, and it was brilliant. And I did to go and spend time with Beanie and Millsy and all them ones and that. That was really, really good. But yeah, then you're back and at it, like, you mean, and it's like my dad says, it's done now, son. It's finished, it's over, let it go and out there, move on. And Europe's now the big one for us to prepare for. We're going to San Marino, and And you get pinch yourself moments like Johnny, like, I mean, we sat in Azerbaijan and Baku, and there was a real pinch yourself moment. I'm sat here with Larne Football Club. Never in a million years did I think that I would ever. Isla McGee was probably a bit as far as I thought I would go with Larne Football Club. Do you know what I mean? And you're sat in somewhere like this, is playing in Conference League group stages. That night standing on the sideline at Ghent will never leave me. Like, do you know what I mean? That was just an unbelievable moment. So it was to be a part of that. Like, as was the Red Imps one and that. Like, do you mean, when we qualified for the group stages, what a night to be a part of and that. Like, do you mean, to see the success of the football club, to do 3 titles in 4 years and group stages of Conference League, to managing this football club. It's just all an honour, like, do you mean, and a prestige, and it's never lost on me, Johnny. It's never has been, never will be. Do you know what I mean? And while you're there, you just got to try and give everything you've got, and all, like, do you mean? Well, you have to get enjoyment out of it, and I do. I get the enjoyment out of the staff. The staff are brilliant, and that they're with me, and that, like, do you mean, they're just the best group of people. So it is, and I learn something new about them every day, and that, like, do you mean, and I try to make sure that they are valued and appreciated not there, because God knows not there I can't do it without them, and I can't do it without Mick and all the guys now, and Jeff and Keith and Alan and Mark and that there. It just doesn't happen without them. Callum Critchley, Owen Rocks, our physios, Janice, who works in the office, Sarah, who works in the office, who does so much for me to help support logistically, Lana, like, you know what I mean, Jane, the way it is, Janice, I mean, there's so many people who do so much and don't get the recognition that I probably get because I'm in that position. But it doesn't work without any of them. Like, you mean, everybody in that there at Larne Football Club works so hard to allow the boys to go out and be successful. Do you know what I mean? And God knows they deserve every support and that they can get, because they're just an exceptional group.
Well, listen, thank you. There's probably no better way to finish it off with thanking everybody at the club, but as I say, you don't forget a name.
No, I try not to, Johnny. I did stumble over a few names there, so apologies for that. But
mate, absolutely incredible. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, but you're the first person to double hug. Do you know what I mean? Pity the first one had to go, but we finish on hugs.
Yeah, always, mate. Always,
pal. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good lad.
That was
brilliant,
so
Johnny,
enjoyable.
I love your podcast. I never miss. You said I'll hear them, like, I never miss them.
Good. Well,
I look forward to it, like, do you know what I mean? Honestly, all our boys listen to them. They are. You're brilliant at it as well, Johnny, and it's a great career move for you. You come down and did our awards. Brilliant. There was
a few questionable things said that night.
Listen, what's happening in the room stays in the room, and that.
Well, questionable. Now they came around at the end, but you probably just shouldn't open the way. But learning curves, you know what I mean?
You were brilliant, and you're taking it to, like, Dr. Water, like, you mean, as you do. So I hope you come back and play, Johnny. You're too talented not to, mate.
Hopefully, my friend. Listen, thank you so much.
Pleasure, pal.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. But join us next week on the On the Spot Football Podcast for another fantastic guest. This has been an absolute pleasure. See you soon.